gearing up for war, don't get it mixed up. I come in peace, kid. I'm bringing commentary and the new releases. I'm putting my hours in. They keep playing on A, be scared, destroy you on a fourth line. If you ain't tuned into the channel, keep your head down. Cut the fix up with some Xbox babies, put the switch up. See me gearing up for war, don't get it mixed up. I come in peace, kid. I'm bringing commentary and the new releases. I put them hours in to get prepared now. We play on expert level, don't get scared now. You on a fourth line, I can tear down. If you ain't tuned into the channel, keep your head down.
Yo, yo, yo. Welcome to The Fix. You're here with me, Infinite Umbra. I'm joined by my co-host, Daniel McGee.
Hey, everybody.
And we have two great guests with us tonight. One thing what we're doing, if you all can see at the very top of the screen here, is the Cure Cancer link here, as I called it, the Cure Cancer with The Fix campaign, if you will. So I got a lofty goal up top, as you can see, $500. I don't expect to get to that, but I would ask that if you all do have anything that you can donate to such a worthy cause and, you know, to such great people who are raising something for this, you know, research of cancer, you could donate to that. You could click on that, I believe, and actually donate. And the links are in the description as well. I'm going to also post it into the chat that you guys can donate if you wanted to, and you are so gracious to do so. But speaking of that, one of the main people who are helping to run this campaign, at least, is our first guest, Shane Bailey. Shane, what's up, brother?
I'm fantastic, man. Thanks so much for having me on.
No, thank you for being here with us. I mean, we had this planned out for a minute, and I know you've been doing this for a while now, and I know you guys are kind of close to that goal too, which is pretty good from what I've seen.
Yeah, 100%. We announced this with Bethesda, this Starfield fundraiser with Bethesda ANZ, end of August, and it just exploded. They initially had a goal of $10,000, and we're almost at 30, which is nuts. I think we're just shy of 26, and there's still a week to go. So it's gone off. The generosity of the community is amazing, and obviously tying it to this amazing 7 out of 10 game has just been the highlight. So.
No, it's 4 out of 10.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't realize.
I put like 3.5
down,
hours into it, and I'm pretty sure that it's like a 2 out of 10 actually.
Oh, damn. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'll quit now. I'm only 2 hours in, so I'll just quit now.
Well, you've seen everything you need to at 2 hours. Really, so.
That's what I assume. Yeah, that's it.
That's it. Yeah. Well, 7 out of 10s. You know, hey, listen, we can't all be the winners. No, but you know, seriously, I'm glad you are enjoying it. But man, speaking of that, though. How far would you all say you are now, Daniel? Where are you at in Starfield now?
Well, okay, so for me, it's a tricky situation.
Oh, that's right.
As we talked about a little bit before, because I was about 50 hours in. I had finished the entire UC story and the Vanguard, I guess specifically story, and the Freestar Collective. I had done an absolute mess of side content. Mm-hmm. But when I got to the quest, all that money can buy. It broke for me in 3 separate ways in one sitting, in such a way that I had to reload save files from as far back as I had save files, and could not fix it. So I actually had to restart the game. I reached out to Bethesda support, and they basically just linked me to an FAQ where it's like, did you try reloading a save? And I was like, yes, that was the first thing I've done. I've played your games before. And so they sent me to an FAQ, and then they're like, we'll assume that the problem is solved. So they basically hit me with the tuxedo mask, like, my work here is done. And I was like, you didn't do anything. So that was pretty cool. I did eventually get to talk to an actual person about it, and they were like, yeah, there's really, unfortunately, just nothing we can do. Because apparently they've patched specifically that issue, but it wasn't, the patch wasn't like save file proof or something. Like, I forget exactly the word he used, but basically it doesn't retroactively, like if you were already set up to go into that situation, then it wouldn't fix it. It was just, it prevented people from getting onto the on-ramp of that problem. So anyway, I got to completely restart the game, which has been mostly a curse, but somewhat a blessing, because I got to sort of respec my character in a couple of ways, which was pretty cool. Like, I got to pick traits that actually like helped me out this time. And I picked the space scoundrel instead of the soldier, because the soldier, like, it came up a lot in conversation but never ended up really like meaning anything, and the scoundrels already helped me out like a couple of different conversations, so that's pretty cool. And I got to make my character look better, which I guess I could have done at any time, but I never did. But
there you go.
It is really cool.
Silver lining.
There's some silver lining. Yeah, there's definitely some positives to redoing. I mean, obviously this has dramatically impacted my appreciation of this game, which I was very much loving before, and now I'm like, but there's normally when you replay a game like this, you start to sort of like see the seams of where it comes apart. And I can say one of the positives is that I haven't seen that. Like in my replay of it, which I for the record, I just mainlined the main story up until that point just to make sure I could get past it before I bothered doing any other side content, because I got like PTSD about it a little bit.
Yeah.
So when I did that, and it worked, got the Helix ship to show up like it was supposed to, and I didn't end up in a weird space bubble trap forever, screaming into space, which was really cool.
There you go. Well, hey,
But
silver linings, like I said, you got to look at the silver linings.
Silver linings. Yeah, but yeah, no, on the replay, like even though I was mainlining just the same story that I'd already done, so much of it played out differently just because of like, oh, I didn't pass this speech check this time, or like I don't have this trait, so I have to do this different. And that's ended up being really interesting. Like I think this game is wildly replayable.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish I hadn't had to replay it. Like the reason that I had to was pretty awful. But at least it's a good one to replay, I guess.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. But and now you had to just to finally ask before I want to move to our second great guest, but you had to start all the way over, or was it just
100% over all the way? New character.
Damn. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, not too much silver linings out of that, but yeah, hey.
It's not great.
Yeah, and our second great guest, of course, the social media magnate himself, Hargeet Johnny. What's up, Hargeet?
Hey, how's it going?
Not much.
Yeah,
man.
the social media magnet that's not on any social media. Yeah, right.
Right. What's up with you, brother? What have you been up to?
So I finished Starfield. Didn't have any of those kind of issues. And loved it. It was there are some games where I just decide sleep is unnecessary, and so should I just play the game, do the work I need to for work, and then play the game, and in between I'll eat here and there. That's kind of what happened with Zelda. That's what happened with Starfield.
Yeah.
I dumped 120 hours in Zelda, or 110, something like that, and it was about 90-ish something in Starfield, and got through, rolled the credits. I did all the factions though. I like finished all of the main faction storylines, and then finished the main campaign. And now I'm just gonna like kind of leave it there until the DLC comes out. But yeah, great game, loved it. Then I decided to go play Baldur's Gate 3, and I had the absolute opposite reaction. I thought I was gonna love it, and I absolutely hated it. It just, I guess it just depends on who you are and like if you like that kind of game. But the gameplay loop on that is so atrociously bad that I couldn't even be bothered to keep playing it. The story felt so generic and like 50-year-old crap, and I'm like, really? This is supposed to be this? I don't know. I don't know what I like. It just felt so different to me. I totally get the 90 plus, 95 plus on Tears of the Kingdom, which to me had a better story than this.
Damn.
And that's sad. I don't know what people are seeing in it that's so different, but it felt so generic. And the other part is like, every character I met, I'm like, you should just die. I don't like you at all. I just don't. I usually don't have that reaction. Like usually there's some redeeming character. There's none. Like all these characters were bad. I'm like, okay. I after 12 hours, I'm like, I give up. I give up. I was hoping it would click for me. It just totally did not. It didn't hook me at all. Yeah. It was the absolute polar opposite of what happened with Starfield. I got hooked immediately and didn't want to stop playing. And this, I'm like, I have to torture myself to keep playing it, and I'm like, I just give up. After 12 hours, I'm done.
No,
so
and you gave it a good time too. 12 hours worth. I mean
12 hours. Yeah. I hope is enough time. Is like, but like it's just I don't know, man. Most other games you finish it in 12 hours, right? And I'm like, I give up.
That's true. I mean, if you weren't enjoying it, there's no reason to continue to force yourself through it.
Right? I'm like, I just find it funny that there aren't equivalent reviews that mirror me. I actually found some of the lower end reviews were kind of like that, but they still gave it like 7 and 8, and I'm like, why?
Peer pressure.
Peer pressure.
I actually agree with that. I think that happens. I think like when somebody comes out and gives it a glowing review, you then feel like you are kind of compelled to give it a glowing review, right? And if they give it a trash review, you're kind of compelled to find reasons to give it a trash review.
Yeah,
I think that actually does happen. I think there is some peer pressure.
I think also too, to go to that point, I think there is, because like you'll hear some of these guys will point out, yeah, we talked with these people at this company. We talked with, like, I think even Dan Stapleton said something of the sort. Yeah, like I talked with these people of this place and see where they were at with their score. maybe it's also a thing where they try to find some type of general consensus of what to say. Like, yeah, you know what? I'll give it that too. So maybe it's not so much bias as them just kind of aping each other's score.
Reaching the same area.
Exactly. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, because
But
it makes
yeah.
sense to a certain degree. Because before the game comes out, like the only other people you're going to be allowed to talk to about it are people who are also NDA'd, right? And so, like, I can understand them being like, "Oh, well, I'm friends with these other people in the industry. I guess I'll talk to them." And so, I think
Yeah,
inherently there's some sharing of ideas that would happen during that conversation because that's just how it works.
hmm
So yeah, and then I started Sea of Stars, which I did not have as much of an issue with. It seems to be pretty good, but I'm very early on. So at least that seems to be a good enough one, and I'll continue with that.
yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of been my gaming. After Starfield's massive high, I was very disappointed with Baldur's Gate. I was expecting to get another Zelda, and I'm like, okay, this is not Zelda. Like,
Yeah.
what is this?
I think maybe it's attuned to a certain thing too, and it's kind of hard to come from such a mega RPG like that to another one. I think maybe
Yeah.
maybe if you'd play Sea of Stars first, maybe as a kind of a palate cleanser or something, maybe that
Yeah.
would have helped. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, after my experience with Starfield, now that I'm caught back up to where I was in terms of the main story, I'm going to take a break from Starfield for a little while and play that Resident Evil DLC separate ways,
Mm.
Oh, nice.
just to take a break from it. Because I'm going to be honest, that day that I lost my save, I was laying in my bed and I was pissed. It was like
Yeah.
it was like I had been cheated on. You know what I mean? Like that, I was
Right.
that bad.
Yeah.
Because
No, I get
I
it.
hadn't run into any bugs before that, and then all of a sudden, like my entire save file is gone. I'm like, all right, cool, sick.
No, yeah, I get it. That sucks.
Yeah, were you like
yeah.
banking on like the auto saves? Is that why you didn't? Because I had
No,
like saves every, like,
I had
20
tons of
minutes.
saves.
Like,
No, me too. Yeah, I had like 30 some odd saves, and I went back to my oldest
I had
one and just mainlined the
150.
story.
it
Oh,
was
yeah,
enough
I
that
don't
it was
keep that
starting
many.
to bug me. You have too many saves. You have to delete them.
Oh no, I didn't. And yeah, I didn't do that for me. But yeah, no, I had like 30 some odd saves, and it was like, because I mean, you've played the story, so you know. My farthest back save was from the bit where Sarah's like, "Hey, you can go hang out with Space Cowboys, or you can go meet Vlad on the Eye, or you can do this third
Yeah.
thing." And so it was from all the way back to there, and I played it from that point. And I think because I had already like done so much side stuff, I had somehow messed up my save in such a way that it just like didn't work. I don't know.
Weird.
Bad dice roll on my part, I guess.
Go figure. I didn't do any of the mainline story stuff until I finished all the factions. So I think I maybe finished 2 or 3 mainline stories. That's it. And then
Yeah, so that's why I was at first.
mainline story.
But after I finished, so because I did Vanguard and Freestar, because I wanted the ship that you get from Freestar, because apparently it's really good, and then I got it, and it turned out, yeah, it was really good.
Yep.
But then I was like, okay, well, before I do these other two, I kind of want to get some of the cool stuff that you get from the main story, because people were like, hey, there's some, no spoilers, some pretty cool stuff you get. I was like, yeah, that might be fun to play around with before like I'm walking into the end game of this thing. So I went and I did that, and that's when I ran
Yeah.
into the problem.
Now, see, for me, I'm well over 200 hours, right? I have to be.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, I have to look into it, but I think the last I looked, I was like 220 something. So if I had to start over, absolutely, I would just move to another game. It's like, you know what? I'll come back to you
I thought about it.
way later. So that's,
Yeah.
I really thought about it.
yeah. But,
But in other news,
I guess you could still like kind of just mainline it at least. Just to,
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, that's still.
But just to bring it in here, just because we're already having the conversation about it, Starfield did pass 10 million players this
Absolutely,
week. So like
yes.
it's doing really well.
That's
and I'm
good.
the only person I know who's run into a problem of this level. So I guess I am just the most unluckiest man of all time.
It
I
is
mean, there's going to be
unfortunate.
some of those, right? There's going to be some odd glitches that happen. Any given game, right?
Yeah.
That's going to happen.
Yeah,
Especially
yeah.
one with this kind of stuff, right?
It is, and to its point, to this credit, I think it still is the most bug free version of it, if you will, of their games
Yeah.
they've had so far. It's just
Yeah.
unfortunate something like this would rear its ugly head, but yeah, I think, and I've seen some people kind of lower their score based on that too, so it's happened unfortunately, but I think I'm still at that 9 area right now, and I'm
I gave it a 9.5.
yeah.
I
Oh, you really liked it.
I really like that.
Yeah.
But look, there are some parts that if you're into that thing, it's kind of disappointing. For instance, if you want to do crafting of weapons and stuff like that, it's not up to the same level as some of the other Bethesda games.
True.
And that's a fair assessment, but to me, I don't care. I never looked for that. Like, I wasn't sitting there crafting. I just don't care about that.
Yeah.
So, and then there's the base building, which I'll say I think is somewhat disappointing to me, but it wasn't enough for me to knock it. But for those who like to do that, it is kind of limiting. There really isn't a lot of option there, and it really would be nice if they add a whole bunch of capability, especially on the inside. You could absolutely allow a whole bunch of things on the inside. I get that you have to create structures that'll work on any planet. I get that, but you know, like inside, why not, right? And I think they did limit it a bit too much, and so that's something they could have added. Maybe they just didn't have enough time to do that, but that is something I found a little limiting. And the crafting, apparently, people have found that very limiting. And fair enough, I agree. It is kind of there, but I
The
don't
only
care.
thing
I
that
don't care
I've
about that.
found limiting is in the ship crafting and ship purchasing. One of the things I really want to know before I buy a ship is what it looks like on the inside, and I cannot figure out how to do that without just buying it and then reloading the save.
That's the only
I
way.
don't know if there's another way, but
I mean, but those kind of things. I mean, they may be nitpicky, but it's like, hey, you could have like made that happen, right?
I get it. I think that's
but
fair.
again, I wouldn't dock it for that, but it is something to nitpick, right? If you have like the critical assessments, like these little nitpicks that you can just give to the developer, that hey,
No, I
these things
agree.
you could go fix.
I agree with you. And even I've done the base building, right? So like a lot of my playthrough and play time rather has been me kind of wandering around, building bases on planets, fighting random people, doing random things just out in space. And I get exactly what you mean. And part of the base building, you have the structures, like you said, the habitats and such that you can make in these planets. And you can hang up pictures and things like that and stuff in the inside and make it look more, I guess, homey, if you will. But it is limited to a degree. But kind of like you though, it's like I didn't care enough to go to a super hard degree, but I do acknowledge that it's limited too at the same time. So I can give it that. I guess for its purpose is, I guess it's more like for the utility of what you're using it for. I guess that's really what they wanted to aim at. Like, you're going to use this for resources, that's basically what it is. So
like you said, it's utilitarian instead of like, hey, I can make it personal and like, right? And I think that's something that people like, right? If you're gonna do it, you're gonna spend the time, you want to make it personal.
Like
I didn't even realize that you had to put a specific piece of furniture inside the place to be able to assign people to it. Like, they didn't really tell you that.
Yeah.
So I'm like why the
you
why
sure
would you
do.
just explain that, right? So it's like, tell me I need to have this station
It's true.
to actually assign somebody. I'm like, why can't I assign somebody to this? Like,
Speaking of that, I have to put a few people out in system of mine so I can get that achievement. Speaking of, but enough of the Starfield talk. Shane, you still there, brother? You get quiet. You had no experience.
Yeah, I've only played 2 hours. I have not had any time to play Starfield, but that's going to change this weekend. I've actually just finished It Takes Two with my partner, and that was just fantastic. Probably one of my favorite games.
That is
just incredible. Someone give Hazelight all the money to keep doing what they're doing, honestly, because we need more. We need more wholesome experiences like that. I absolutely adored it. So yeah. But no, I'm still here. Also, I noticed Jedi Knight Peter donated $20, so thanks, Pete. But I think he donated to the wrong link, Umbra. So I've shot you your donation link on Discord. So maybe we can pop that in the chat for people, because I think the one in the description is linking to the whole campaign. But
let me.
That's right. So
thanks for that. Yeah, I'll correct
No, that's all right.
along the way. But yeah, again, guys, we are trying to help with this the Cure for Cancer campaign. So if you guys can't click on it, either way, even if it's not mine specifically, if you're donating in general, if you have anything you can donate out of the kindness of your heart, we would appreciate it to help out with this great campaign. But we'll move to the main gaming news roundup, if you will. So Danny, what's the first item on the news for us?
We had a couple of big name people step down from their positions to this week. First up, we had director of Star Wars Jedi, like that series, Stig Asmussen, has stepped down from Respawn, and also the director of Calypso Protocol, Glenn Schofield, has left striking distance after making exactly one game at that studio.
Ridiculous.
So common theories are that they were offered a lot of money to go someplace else, although we have not heard what those other places are yet. So who knows? It's also sort of an interesting situation because Stig very specifically was like, "Hey, these Cal Kestis Star Wars games are going to be a trilogy," and I, as far as I'm aware, that's still going to be true, but it'll be someone else's vision for the third one. So we interesting to see what happens there.
That's crazy.
Maybe Netflix got him just like Joe Staten.
Possible.
You think so? You know, it's great. I didn't really care for Callisto Protocol. To me, it was more along the 6.5 area for me out of 10. I just thought it wasn't. Once you learn it, the enemies are not scary after a minute. After you do that and you learn how to play it, it's predictable. You understand exactly what to do. And its shortcomings are like when in combat, you kind of limited on how you can move and things like that. So, like for instance, fighting the final boss was just a chore because they made it a chore. The camera was terrible, the positioning and where it was at. Just a lot of things like that, as I can kind of recall, but I didn't really care for it. I thought that it's going to be a miss, but I remember talking with Risket and Pete, and one of the things that came up that were mentioned is that they expected to sell 5 million. So my thing was, imagine if they had just made a deal with Xbox to put it into Game Pass, like they probably would have gotten that, and then some with sales. So it's unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean, we did see as part of, I mean, we'll get to it, but we did see sort of as part of the leak that is our main topic, like hints at what they thought they would have to pay for certain titles, and 5 million would have been on the low end for like a big AAA, but considering it was a new IP from a new studio and it ended up kind of flopping, like, yeah, I think that's probably about right. Especially maybe they wouldn't pay the full 5, but they'd give them like 4 or 3 and then they'd make up the rest on PlayStation or something.
Exactly.
I see that for sure.
That's my.
I can see it dropping in both services relatively soon to try and recoup that cost.
Mm-hmm.
No, like something like Immortals of Avium will probably drop into EA Play in the next few months as well. So hopefully more people just get to experience those games because they're not terrible.
And speaking of Immortals of Avium, I mean, they had to actually let people go from that one too,
shut
right?
Down. Yeah. Well, half the team got sent off. So
wow.
It's been
damn.
It's just been like nonstop studio closures and layoffs lately, and I mean that's what our next 2 stories are as well. If you want me to just throw those in here as well,
yeah, absolutely.
Is Ubisoft has shut down their London studio. They say that they've done so to enhance efficiency and streamline process of making games. Which, all right, dude, sure. We all know that it's really just to save money on overhead. Yeah, exactly. And then Crystal Dynamics has been hit with a couple layoffs too, because again, Embracer needs to cut costs wherever they can. And I guess they've chosen Crystal Dynamics, which is really disappointing because that's like one of their only teams that I think has a chance of making them money. So I don't know why you would do the layoffs there, but whatever.
Man, that is really sucky. I really wish this ABK thing were over. That's a studio that
I
Microsoft
swear.
needs to go pick up. It's so annoying.
Speaking of that, I mean, those guys that were laid off from Crystal Dynamics, I think Microsoft would be wise at least to have the initiative reach out to grab them.
Yeah.
Those guys worked under Daryl Gallagher.
I wouldn't.
So.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all if Daryl was already like, hey, just as a heads up.
Hey, big head. Hey, big head. You want to come on over?
Exactly. Especially because the initiative we had reported earlier in the year lost a huge number of their employees. So if you can just get people from Crystal who have already worked under the studio head to come over there and do more work there, like it's a perfectly fine fit. I don't know geographically how it makes sense, but otherwise.
I mean, they're supposed to be the same area, right?
The easiest thing. I honestly don't know.
I was just about to ask. Yeah, I'll double check that.
Yeah, because that's where Daryl was, right?
Mm-hmm, it is.
San Mateo is Crystal Dynamics. So.
I don't know.
You know, but going back to Glenn Schofield, the way that Jason Schreier, everybody's favorite Bloomberg writer, if you're not blocked, Crofton representative Wednesday said that he decided to pursue new opportunities. So he's definitely going somewhere. It just seems kind of crazy that you would start up something like this, start up a new company and then ditch everybody. Seems kind of crazy. The team must have lost faith in him or something. Something must have happened.
It doesn't make me feel good about Striking Distance in general, because I very much remember when Striking Distance was being opened up, the whole conversation was, this is Glenn Schofield's team. Like it was the entire conversation surrounded that one person. So the fact that one person left almost immediately is like, okay, so what is the identity of this studio now? What do they do? do they continue to exist? Because we're in a time right now where studios are getting shut down left, right, and center. Like, I don't know. If I was working there right now, I would not feel happy or confident.
Not at all. Yeah, it seems like some foreclosure is coming their way. But yeah.
Probably.
What else do we have in the news?
We got some reviews that dropped. Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty is very good, apparently. I'm not going to use meta because, as we've recently found out, it's completely broken, and I also don't trust OpenCritic for similar but less reasons. So I've just pulled like some general impressions from the reviews themselves. It looks like people are very happy with the improved progression of their characters and how the AI has been fixed and just general playability. People are very hit and miss on the story, however. Some people are like, this is really good, and other people are like, this is trash. So literally like complete opposite polar sides on that. But people in general, even when they point out the problems with that, and the two big problems that they point out is that, and that the combat still isn't like great. Like they still point out that the shooting is still pretty bad. But even without that, even with that, they still generally give it like an 8 or a 9. So it's doing very well. They're very happy with it, and I think this is exactly what CDPR needed. Like that seems to be the going theory right now, or tone right now, is just CD Projekt needed a win, and this is that win, and everyone's happy about it.
There's something to be said about that, because I actually, and I know my brother Dragonheart Yobi, who's in the chat, I know he loved it as well. Both of us put in crazy amounts of time into this game. I put 400
Frank from last week,
400 and yeah, exactly, 400 over 450 hours I put into that game. So
wow,
I loved it. I loved it even with its flaws, and that's the same way I relate to Starfield. It's like I know it's got some flaws, but it's not enough for me to like, oh no, this is a 7. Like that, it's just not enough for that. You know what I mean? But so I'm happy to see this rebound, but that does bring up to a thought, because people will say, well, they could do this for Halo, they could patch this and then do that. But how long do people typically give a game to rebound? It's kind of like, first impression is really it sometimes, and people will move on. So I wonder how well this is going to matter for the health of Cyberpunk in general, or does it matter for the longevity? I don't know.
Because for us on like the very deep in the weeds talking about this all the time sort of perspective, this is a big win, obviously. Mm-hmm. But I think you're exactly right. It's like this is a DLC that's coming out multiple years after the game has already been generally viewed as a colossal failure just in the public eye.
Exactly.
So I don't think this is going to bring, if you didn't like the game originally, I don't think this is going to bring you back. If you did like the game, then 100% you're going to love this. So I don't know that this is going to move big numbers for them, but I think in terms of like media, public appeal, that sort of thing, it's going to help them for like their future projects, because people won't be as heavy on like, well, their last game was a total flop, because like now they've corrected it.
That's true. They do have this to fall back on. That's true.
It's possible that this could be a good either PS Plus or Game Pass ad sometime early next year, right? So get your DLC bump and then see how you can maybe get more players in there, and then if they like the the game, they might buy the DLC, right? And then maybe when you're pulling it out of the service, it'll get a bump in sales as well. But that is another way to maybe mitigate it. I mean, The Witcher 3 also had this kind of it started pretty bad with bugs, but it did become a beloved game. So it is possible that people will still come back to it. It sold really well, right? So we still have to keep that in mind. It did sell a lot, and people still have it. And if they think, hey, maybe this 2.0 version, right, everybody's raving about it, it might be time for me to like delve back into it. And those who actually bought like the expansions or whatever, maybe they already have it, they might decide to get into it. Actually, I think you have to pay for this no matter what, right? No matter what edition you bought.
Mm-hmm.
So you
always have to buy this anyway. DLC. But a lot of the fixes that were in it can't come for free. It's just an update. Come for free,
and it made a lot of changes to the core game, right?
Which
is kind of interesting. And the thing that I'm also very interested in is I'm going to play, even though I pre-ordered it on Xbox and I've been waiting for all these patches. I haven't played this yet.
Yeah. You haven't played Cyberpunk at all?
I haven't played it because I was waiting for all the patches.
I'm the same.
I'll just wait. And then I keep hearing, oh, there'll be another patch. I'll just wait. And then the Phantom Liberty, I'm like, I'll just wait. right? Now that it's got all this stuff, I'm really excited to dive into it. But I'm gonna do it on
Yeah.
PC because they have path tracing, right? It's supposed to look stellar. I'm like, all right, that's another reason I want to try this out. Is just
It's
see what
a
on a 4090, right? So
Yeah.
it's a really interesting game. I think you'll probably like it. I didn't personally like the world that it was in. I thought that it was really like bleak in a way that just wasn't interesting to me. But in general, I think people have come to love it. So I think you'll like it.
Oh
Yeah.
wow.
Kudos to CD for turning it around as well. I think it'll be my Christmas game this year. I think
Yep.
I even remember the conversation at launch saying, "Oh, is it even going to be worth it to try and turn the ship around?" And here they are. Like it's everyone's
Yeah.
raving about it. So, and speaking just of all-time peak, did you guys see that Titanfall 2's peaked
I've
22,000 players on Steam?
Yeah, because they added a new mode.
The last few weeks,
surpassing
and then
few
the
games that's out now, major games too, right?
Yeah, but its all-time
Yeah.
peak is 27,000, so it's almost as high
Oh,
as it was
wow.
ever. So, and that's just some
It's getting
random
a-
update. So,
Well, not just some random update necessarily. It was an update that sort of teased a potential Titanfall 3, and then also they added a brand new mode called Attack on Titan. And so there's a lot of people who are going back to that and remembering like, oh, that's right, Titanfall 2 is actually like super dope, and it just got
Yeah.
killed because it got put out in like the stupidest possible way.
Terrible schedule release.
And
Yeah.
I think like that kind of got replaced with Apex, right? And it kind of has the same gameplay, but it doesn't have the
Apex
same...
is in the
Yeah.
same universe,
Yeah.
and it's made by
Mhm.
the same team. So
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah,
But yeah,
definitely.
it's good to hear. So I hope Halo can do something to come
I hope
back.
so,
Well,
too.
I hope there's another Halo. I just want to see the next Halo.
There will-
I want the
There will
campaign.
be. I can't
Right,
say
but
when,
I
but
don't
there
know when
definitely will
it'll-
be
yeah.
more Halo.
I hope so too, and I hope they make up for the mistakes they made with some of the things they did
Yeah.
at the beginning of Infinite. Infinite still is a great game. I think if anybody gives it a chance, especially now with all the things they've added, this season has been a really good turnaround point, I think. By the way, Dragonheart Yobi said he has put in 1,000 hours
Oh my.
into
Oh my
Cyberpunk.
goodness.
I thought I was crazy with it, but sheesh.
Oh, I thought he was going to say Starfield. And I was like, has the game even been out 1,000 hours?
No. No, if he beat me on Starfield hours, I'd be surprised. But yeah, because I get to play it
Dang.
on my ROG Ally away from home, so that
Oh,
is
nice.
impressive. That is impressive. But I mean, I think after another thing Cyberpunk has going forward is the anime was really solid. So I
The
think
anime
that
was really
also,
solid.
yeah, that
The
helped, I
soundtrack
think.
is. Those were the two things that really carried me through that game because I was, like I said, I wasn't into the world and I didn't really love the writing or the characters. But what really kept me sat in my seat was I thought it was visually beautiful and the music was amazing, and both of those things are really encapsulated in the anime perfectly. So
Yeah.
Big props to the Netflix team that put that together.
Absolutely. It's sad that they're talking about they're not going to have a sequel to it or whatever, but whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, shout out to everybody in the chat. Thank you all for being here. Again, we are running the campaign here, as you can see above the Fix logo there, the Cure for Cancer with the Fix. So the description has the links that you all can click. I don't care that it doesn't go specifically to my campaign as long as it goes to them in general. If you all have anything you can donate, please do so. But what else did we have on the news, Danny?
We got one more round of reviews here, this time coming for Mortal Kombat 1, which is also very good, just not on Switch. Generally, people seem to love how it plays. The new cameo system, people are loving. I think in general, people are looking for kind of a switch up to how Mortal Kombat works, and it looks like this is a very positive change for it. The big negatives that people are keeping up with are they think that the additional features, so like additional modes, are pretty lacking, and apparently the online play is a little rough right now, which hopefully will be patched soon. It seems like Boone and team are working on that currently. And I couldn't find exactly why, but multiple of the reviewers said that it felt rushed. They didn't specify why, but it was like 4 or 5 different people specifically used the word rushed. So I don't know, but the reviews are generally positive. So it looks like it's another win for fighting games this year.
Yeah, that's crazy to see. I saw some of the. I don't know if you all have seen it, Shane and Hargeet, but the gameplay of Mortal Kombat 1 on the Switch is comical.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
bad.
I don't know what
Makes you
they were
wonder
doing
who
there.
said, you know what? Yeah, let's publish this.
That's what
Yeah,
I
let's put that
said.
SKU out there.
Yeah, I saw that.
IGN
I'm
dusted
like,
off a number smaller than 7 to give it, so that was pretty cool.
right.
They gave specifically the Switch version a 3, and I think they gave the normal one like
Oh,
an 8
wow.
or a 9.
That is insane. I just don't understand why they would even release that. Just quality control wise, you would think they'd be like, nah, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
But yeah,
It'll sell regardless, no matter when you release it, even if it came 6 months after the other versions. So why not just give it a bit of extra love and care?
what
you
if
know?
what if that thing? What if the Switch version outsells the other SKUs? Like, what?
I would be.
And that's
That's
probably why they put it out there.
problematic.
Right?
Yeah,
I would love that.
You know,
I
it
would
is what
love
it
that
is.
so
We
much.
just like presume that everybody's looking for the graphic fidelity. and
Right.
Ultimately, it's like, hey, can I play the game? Sure.
Yeah.
Here you
Yeah.
go.
Can
This
I
isn't-
can
I
I
don't
do a
even know that this is just
fatality?
a
That's all I
matter.
care about.
Yeah,
I don't know if this is even just a matter of graphical fidelity. Like some people are looking wonky. Like their eyes are
Mm.
not in their heads. Like
Right.
it's not just like, oh, it's a 720p. It's like
there's
this
some
was
janky
made on a
engine bugs, right?
Macintosh
Yeah.
in the 80s.
It's not on old gen, is it? It's not on Xbox One and PS4, right?
I don't actually
Um,
know that for sure.
Let me see to make sure. I wonder because I think it's just purely next gen, but it wouldn't surprise me for it to be cross gen.
Yeah, I mean, if it can run on a Switch, why wouldn't it run on an Xbox One,
Is
PS4?
Mortal
You know?
Kombat
Yeah.
1 also on Xbox?
That's a
One,
big
PS4?
brain management
It's
problem.
not
Like, of,
listed. It's
if you're
listed
launching on
for
those three
Switch,
platforms,
PS5,
Switch is the biggest.
Xbox
and-
Series and Windows, so it's not listed.
Yeah,
for
it's,
old gen.
it's not. It's just for the current gen. And PC.
Yeah. If Nintendo's
Huh.
fans' first experience with a Mortal Kombat game is that game, then there's the damage done. So I don't know.
Yeah, that damage is done. It's funny you say that because there was a reviewer going back to the review thing that played Mortal Kombat for the first time ever. And he gave it a 7. And I was kind of like, well, why did they put you on it? This is your first time ever playing a Mortal Kombat game. Like, I feel like maybe put somebody that's been used to that. They can give us. I can trust somebody who's played past games to give me a better overall robust thought than somebody who's never played any of it. Like I don't know, you know what I mean? Like, how can I trust what you're talking about versus a veteran of the series? It's the same reason why, like, for somebody over on IGN, for instance, I forgot the guy's name, an Australian fellow who does the Forza reviews and race car
Luke
games.
Riley, I
Luke
think.
Riley.
Oh, Luke,
yeah.
yeah.
So
Yeah, Luke
yeah, you would
Riley.
trust them more because they done it. They do this all the
Mm.
time. You know what
He
I
does
mean?
all the car reviews, yeah.
Exactly. So
Those,
they,
like the racing game reviews.
yeah. I'm gonna give a shout out to John TJ. Thank you, brother. He says hi, Umbra. Hi, Daniel. MKG. Yeah, okay. MKG.
It must be MCG, but he. Put
Yeah.
the
All right. You got.
It's all good.
We'll take it. That's your new name from now.
It would be pronounced the same.
Hi. Yeah, it's true. Hi, Argeet. Hi, Shane. Everyone, please hit the like button. Thank you, brother. Appreciate that. Yeah. What else do we have in the news, Danny?
Well, in other bad Crystal Dynamics news, Marvel's Avengers is getting shut down and delisted at the end of the month. So it'll be completely delisted. You won't be able to buy it. All online support is being completely shut down, so you won't be able to play it multiplayer, from what I can tell. And it's not that old of a game, so it was pretty heavily a commercial flop. And I think they're just looking to get out from underneath it at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately.
Yeah. So if you're interested in playing that game single player, go pick it up. It's probably really cheap right now.
It's-
But
I think it
otherwise,
was like $4.
maybe let it go.
I think it was like $4 the last I looked at that.
Dang.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be
so-
surprised.
$4, holy crap.
Exactly. I think now is the time to buy, everybody. Buy.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like,
Wow.
yeah, it's
But
$4.
the single
I believe.
player will be available, or is it like, are they gonna make it like so you can't play it at all? Or
You can play it single player. It'll be able to be played offline, from what I understand. I read through their
Yeah.
FAQ, and it wasn't the most illuminating information, but it seemed like you'd still be able to play it single player. But yeah, you wouldn't be able to matchmake because there's no servers. So
Okay. So Joby is saying that that's false. The support will end, but the multiplayer will still be active. So
oh, okay. Well, that's not what they made it seem like.
yeah. Bushido said he bought it for his grandsons. I don't believe you bought it for you. You over there. You're like, I'm Captain America. That's what it is. I know.
It's on Spider-Man.
Right.
In a costume as he plays it.
Yeah, right. You have the Spider-Man, the Spooder-Man mask on. Another TJ dropped another donation, but I'll let you get to the next one before I get to it. What else do we have?
We got some updates on the biggest game of the state of play, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and they're all not ones that make me happy, unfortunately. And seeing as how I think the only person on the podcast last week who was interested in this game, that's not a good sign.
For
So
Final
first of all,
Fantasy VII Rebirth, you're talking about?
7 Rebirth, yeah.
No, I'm actually kind of excited for it too. I don't know how.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't translate into me playing it anytime soon, though. So,
Okay. All
to
right.
be fair.
So a couple of updates to it. Number one, you won't be able to import your save, although they're saying that if you do have a save file from the previous game, you'll get, quote, a little something extra. So who knows what the hell that means, but it's not your save file, which is, honestly, that doesn't affect me because I got hoed switching over from the PS4 to the PS5 anyway, where I forgot to upload my save to the cloud before I sold the PS4. And so it's also gone. So I guess this is the second time in this podcast where I've talked about a save file being destroyed for me. So oops, I guess I'm cursed. They've said that it'll take roughly 100 hours to complete the content of the game, and that it has a very heavy open world skew to it, which is very different from the first game in a way that is a little bit worrying, to be honest, because it implies a lot of filler. They show Vincent, of course, the vampire who got the Dirge of Cerberus spinoff. In one of the trailers, he will not be a playable party member despite being in that trailer. He is only a storyline part of the team, like Red 13 was in the previous game. They're trying really. Yeah, he's set dressing basically. They're trying to make people care about Zack, which I think is really funny. Because if you've played Final Fantasy VII, the original one, you may very well not know who Zack is because he's just a Cloud ripoff. Well, I guess technically in the lore, Cloud is a ripoff of him, but whatever. He's a Cloud ripoff from the really bad PSP Crisis Core game. Fight me, all 10 fans of Crisis Core who showed up in one of my videos when I said that Crisis Core was bad, but show up again, you dickheads. It's literally one of the worst Final Fantasy games, and I will fight you on any hill on any planet. Anyway, apparently he's getting an episode for himself. Who knows? They're trying to make fetch happen with Zack, and I Godspeed to him. This is like the only property they have that makes money, so I hope it works out for him.
Yeah.
And this second game in the trilogy will take us to the Forgotten Capital, which, for those keeping track, is the end of Disc 1 in the original series.
Oh, they're trying to milk
the
this.
Original 4-disc series.
Oh, they're trying to milk this one, huh? I see.
So, which is extra funny because Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is 2 discs by itself on the PS5, which means by the end of this, we'll have already had 3 discs, but we'll only be at the end of Disc 1 for the PS1 version of this game because they've added so much filler, which in the first game, the filler was actually pretty fun. So maybe they'll make it good here. But the fact that they're like 100 hours of content makes me think probably not.
Yeah, speaking of Final Fantasy, it goes into a thought that I had with the Tokyo Game Show, but I'll save it until I get to that point. But it is something. I wonder with I believe it's the Yakazuki or Yakashi, I forgot his last name, the new president of Square Enix. I'm wondering just how long it's going to be before they finally come to their senses and say, hey, let's get this game on every platform. I just don't understand the notion of having such a major release pushed into exclusivity on PlayStation. To me, I think it's just a mistake. And I think Square's, their financials have shown it to be a mistake overall. So, and I think they kind of doing it over time again, like people are like, well, the Xbox people don't want to buy it. No, it's just not. It's not that. It's like you can neglect the fan base, or at least a potential fan base, for so long. People will assume that, okay, I'll only get that experience on the PlayStation, and I think that's what it's come down to. And then you have some who don't want to get a PlayStation, and they associate you with it, and they just move on. You know what I mean?
Well, and the other part of it is like there are so many Final Fantasy VIIs at this point from this new era of them. But it's like, I don't even know how to keep track of it. Like, we're reaching like Kingdom Hearts, and it's the same company, but we're reaching like Kingdom Hearts level of what if this matters, right? Because you're gonna have 3 games from the remake, because there's Rebirth, remake, and third game that's probably like, I don't know, Reconstitution or something, whatever they're calling the third one. Then you've got Crisis Core. I bet you money we're getting a Dirge of Cerberus at some point. You've got Intergrade, which is kind of a new game because they added content, but also not because it's like a remaster. I don't know, it's weird. And then you've got the spin-off one where it's a battle royale where you're just like a random soldier, and then they're also making a mobile one, and there's one where you play as Sephiroth. So like we're already up to 9 and we haven't even gotten the second one yet.
Wow.
You know, to the sales point, you know, because they only put it on PlayStation 5 and not even putting it on PC. You know, look at Starfield in Europe. It was the 5th largest selling game period of 2023. Selling game, not on Game Pass, selling game
So true.
in Europe. And the reason is because it's on PC. Day and date, it's on PC.
Yep.
And
And by the way, to your point,
You know,
that
which is
wasn't
what
that
it
wasn't the $31 Game Pass version either.
Nope.
That was
Nope,
the
that's
full
The
release.
full game. Yep.
So that
And,
actually is
you know,
very impressive.
It's ahead of RE4 and Final Fantasy 16, right? So
Crazy.
and if they had
Yeah.
just put it on PC,
They
that
would've-
game would have sold a lot more.
Exactly.
100%.
need
I
to
mean,
kinda
as we
just keep that
reported
in mind, you know?
last week, Final Fantasy 16 was a really big disappointment financially for them, which, to be fair, they say
Yeah.
about every game that they ever put out.
Yeah, they say it about
but
every game.
still.
So true.
But in this case, it's a big deal because Final Fantasy is their cash cow, and if,
So
if
true.
this is starting to fail, which is why they've lost like what, $2 billion in
Yep.
market cap, right? Because like this is, if this goes, then what else is left, right?
That's
We
true.
wait on Kingdom Hearts.
It's very
Like
true.
what's making them money, right? So bad decisions, right? The previous
decisions.
CEO decided like we're gonna just jump all on Sony for this. That was a bad idea.
Yep.
I don't mind if you did Sony, but at least do PC because you get such a large audience.
I agree.
just
And the other
makes
part of that
no
that doesn't make
sense
sense to
not put
me
it there.
is it's like, if you're taking this exclusivity deal, why are you not getting enough money from them to cover the sales of the other platforms?
Yeah, that's the thing.
Like, how are you taking this exclusivity deal and it's not enough for you? Like, if it's not enough to make up for your loss of sales, why are you taking it?
I don't get it. I think maybe the past president or whatever had his ties to whomever at Sony, and maybe he just kind of honored that and kept that in place to their detriment. And I'm just hoping that the new president, it seems to be the case, and I'll get to that later too, but it seems to be the case that they're kind of seem to like, and we'll see. I expect to get more from them at TGS, but they're getting there from what we know. So we'll see. But I do want to address TJ's donations, if you will. So TJ to the Ape Boom donates a generous $10 super chat. Thank you, TJ, again. He says Microsoft should buy 49% of Nintendo. Oh wow, just 49%, huh?
Just 49?
And all of WB by Sega and Square Enix and all small studios they are working with, and by Valve, so we can have Steam on Xbox. You are worse than me, TJ.
Is that all?
we should just Microsoft should just buy the entire industry
they're
and
at
then
it,
all
why don't they just buy
adjacent
PlayStation?
industries.
That's it.
I like how you said it so nonchalantly too. Like, yeah, they should get them by 49%. He's very specific.
Yeah,
I like
he's run the numbers.
I like
He's run
the
them twice.
specifics. Yeah.
Somebody on Boom's show had a super chat that actually was kind of compelling. Was instead of buying WBD, the whole thing, Warner Brothers Discovery,
Yeah,
you buy just the Warner Brothers part of it, which includes all the IP, the
Yep.
movies and whatnot, and leave all the TV stuff, to Discovery.
I agree.
Right, which is
at this point, I
biggest
think it would
headache.
honestly even be. Yeah, well, at this point, even I think it would be a worthwhile thing to be like, hey, we know how to make video games. We'll buy your video game sector. You just give us rights to use your IP for video games. We'll make the games you want. And if down the road you fail because you're hemorrhaging money like no one's business, then maybe we'll step in and buy the rest of you.
It could be some structured deal like that. I mean, they could do something. The interesting part is Warner Brothers Discovery took on all the debt of AT&T, right, from their purchase.
Yeah, which is insane.
They did, yeah.
So they're not making money. They don't have anything that they can go after because they can't borrow. They're already bankrupt as far as freaking being able to borrow. So they're kind of stuck, right?
They are.
So they luck out with Hogwarts. They luck out with Barbie. I think those are the two big cash cows that they've had this year.
Yeah,
right?
Barbie actually is like, I think 6th or 7th or something like that all time money making wise.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Lucky for them, at least they had that, right? But everything else has been a disaster, right? So they kind of need an infusion of cash, and so a potential partnership might be a thing that could happen, right? Maybe they do offload the studios and have like a 20-year licensing deal, and work with them and something like that. I don't know. There is potential.
I could see that. honestly,
So
because they're looking for money. They need it desperately.
they need
Microsoft
it.
has it.
Yep.
Yeah. I
They're-
need money. You
Microsoft
have
has-
money. Let's work together.
Right?
Microsoft has money and needs IP, and WB needs money and has IP. Like it's
Mhm.
the most obvious solution.
It
If
is.
we can be friends here, we can put this
It's
together.
not like these kind of things don't have like you look at Marvel, like they gave the Spider-Man IP to Sony.
Right.
They didn't give it to them. They licensed it to them,
Mhm.
and there
Yeah.
are terms that they have to meet, right? But a similar thing could happen here, right?
It
So
could.
they could work out some sort of deal, and at this current state that they're in, it wouldn't be a bad idea
I
for
think
them to
it'd
entertain
be
it.
very smart for them to kind of make their own DC
For both.
universe in
Right?
on
Yeah.
on
Yeah,
the
for both
platforms.
people, right?
Absolutely. I
It'd
mean,
be
my
great for Microsoft.
and
It'd be great
Microsoft,
for-
as we had come to find out because of the leaks, they had actually thought like, hey,
Yeah. Oh, they were about
WB, yeah. So they were in their plans, which I appreciated because it tells me,
people been telling me I was crazy.
you're right,
They'll
all
never
this
buy it
time.
because they'll never get the IP. Oh yeah, all right. What did Microsoft think about that?
Exactly. Yeah, the more I think, like the more we see with what them buying and acquiring, rather ABK, the less I believe people when they say, "Oh, they can't do this or that." I'm like, yes, they can. Money,
can.
money talks. Let's just be real. They're in
Yeah.
business. They got enough money to change the world so that it can happen. TJ donates another $5 super chat. He says EA is probably putting Need for Speed away because Criterion
Criterion.
better
Yeah.
is now only going to make Battlefield. I saw that. Yeah, they
Yeah,
closed.
they're doing like a Call of Duty thing with it. It looks like
yeah, they're moving them
Which is
into support
not
studio, right?
great.
But what was the
Yeah.
last game that they actually made? Criterion.
Criterion. I think they're the Need for Speed guys. I think he's right on that.
That was the last like ever game they made. Because I don't think they
Well,
made
because they did one.
I don't think they made Need for Speed under the newest one. I don't think they did that one.
I will look at them right now. Hold on. The last thing they put out was in 2022. They put out Need for Speed Unbound.
So that was them. Okay.
That's the last thing they're credited on.
I thought it was a different team that was on that. Okay.
Although it also says that they were already working on the Battlefront games or Battlefield games because it looks like they were also credited on Battlefield 2042 and Battlefield 5.
So
So-
they've already been double. Okay, I see. They've already been doing it. So
Yeah, I don't know about this putting all bets on Battlefield. They just like proven they can't manage that franchise well anymore. I don't know.
yeah, I
We'll
mean,
see.
I do trust
But they gave it to
Impella though.
Vince, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
True. Yeah, that's a great point.
That's why I have faith in it because I think he'll turn it around. I mean, it's the reason why, like we were talking about earlier, Titanfall 2 is starting to pick back up, right?
Hmm.
But yeah, no, that's something.
sir.
It's a lot of consolidation and people being kind of pushed into one way or another. I wonder how it all played
Yeah.
out.
Well, it's weird because there's two very bad things happening, and unfortunately, two things that people are rather the consolidation and just studios getting shut down and having layoffs all across the board, right? And it's like one of these is kind of a solution for the other. So I know that it's like not the most happy thing in the world for people who don't want to see consolidation, but like if the option existed for Volition to be sold instead of closed, that's a better option for everyone involved.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, it's weird.
No, yeah,
It's weird to see people still be upset about it.
yeah.
So yeah, did that come out as part of the leaks that like Phil was talking about? You don't close the studio because, what was it, like the game didn't do well enough. It's because like the leadership
Yeah.
changed or there's not
Yeah.
enough enthusiasm.
So there's no passion.
right.
Those are
there's no passion,
more or less his
right?
words.
That was
Yeah,
with
so-
Lionhead, and he said, "What was the ensemble?" Right? Yeah.
Yeah, they closed Lionhead because they lost What's His Dick, Molyneux, and then Ensemble. They said specifically they lost the passion. So
Exactly. Yeah. So, and by the way, that kind of shed some light because I believe a lot of people kind of wrote it off. Oh, Microsoft didn't know what they were doing; they mismanaged them, and it was more
Yeah.
of the guy probably just wanted to move on and didn't care about doing what he was doing before. But
yeah, I mean it happens. I'm sure that there was some amount of guilt on both sides, but yeah, like it is what it is.
yeah. So,
But in other news,
yeah, what else
'cause I
do we
think you were
have?
trying to toss to me for a different story.
Yeah.
In other Microsoft leaks that are not part of the main topic of this show, the Azure servers have leaked 38 terabytes of data Although that title is slightly misleading from what I've read into, because it looks like it wasn't actually like officially leaked. It was just that it was susceptible to breach. And to sort of assuage any worries from Microsoft customers or anything, the 38 terabytes did not contain any customer data, only employee teams chats and sort of things like that. It looks like the susceptibility was some third-party team found a way into a database that effectively let them spoof that they were an employee and pretend that so that they could get in and see chats and stuff. And so you could get sensitive information that way about other employees, but not about customers. So it's not like the end of the world, but also an important thing to point out is that the team that is reporting this is also a team whose entire job is to find susceptibilities in big companies' data and then get paid to fix said susceptibilities.
Oh, wow. So they're pirates. They're pirates.
I mean, kind of.
Wow.
But, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
39 terabytes,
yes, 38,
right?
Yeah, 38, but it's at the point we're splitting hairs. But yeah, so it was a lot of data, but it was not a lot of data that like was gonna endanger anybody. You know, like they weren't leaking credit card information or anything like that. So it's not a huge deal, but it's good that they caught it.
Yeah, that is crazy. The positive, of course, like you said, it wasn't any, personal like things that they deal with us as customers or anything. So
yeah,
I think though, it's like the massive leak that happened, this kind of skated by everybody's thought like process. I remember mentioning it on Boom's podcast, but I think everybody else was so enamored by
there's so much other stuff going
exactly.
on. We wanted to talk about the Fallout 3 remaster.
Right. Yeah, it was so much other big news. It's like, okay, where do we slot this in? But yeah. But what else did we have?
So I've got 3 more stories here that are not video game related, but it'll be really fast. First of all, for fans of AEW wrestling, myself included, they have made some pretty big announcements unofficially that they are going to be expanding to 12 pay-per-views a year, so one a month, roughly, and that they will, instead of having you buy them a la carte from like a Fightful, or not a Fightful, a Bleacher Report or something like that, they're going to start streaming them on HBO Max. So that's pretty cool for me, who has been splitting pay-per-view cost with like 2 friends of mine for 3 years now.
Interesting.
It's going to save us a lot of money. Really excited about it.
Warner, right?
Oh yeah, well, because they're going to get the whole backlog of stuff too, you would assume.
Nice.
This is all just being like kind of leaked out. There's a lot of leaks this week, so they haven't officially announced it, but they're definitely doing the pay-per-views, and it's assumed that they'll also get like the weekly content. So that's a Collision, Dynamite, and Rampage, which is effectively 5 hours of television content every single week for wrestling, as well as the entire back catalog, which also now includes Ring of Honor, because Tony Khan bought that. So it's a really big deal in terms of just acquiring content for HBO. Although they already technically owned the streaming, Warner Brothers already owned AEW in terms of like putting it on air. So this was just an official thing of like moving it over to the streaming service.
Yeah. And just to address Mr. Bushido, he says, how come Umbra doesn't have any Starfield gameplay? And he put a horse.
Oh no. Send him off to the glue factory.
I'm part of the Hooven clan.
Yes.
So my capture device is I was using a USB for it. I know I need to upgrade and get me a real like Elgato or whatever, but at the time I was using a USB stick, and for whatever reason it's not working anymore. So I got a new one coming in. But yeah, I got a Samsung one coming through that'll be here tomorrow, and I'll try to record something to have some stuff for next week. But couldn't get anything for this. But yeah, unfortunately. Either way, I still have tons more hours in it than you do, Bushido. So who's the real horse here, huh?
Got his ass.
What else did you have, Denny?
So on the other side of the ring, we talked about last week that WWE had finished their merger with UFC to become TKO. And the negative side of that is that they've been hit with a wave of layoffs this week, as we knew was going to happen for a long time. As it's been reported that there were going to be some talent cuts. They already did a bunch of the cuts from like backstage production roles, but those aren't really easy to talk about because we don't know who any of those people are. But we have a short list of people who were laid off today, and I'll just read them off here for people who care. It's Mustafa Ali, Emma, Dolph Ziggler, Elias, Riddick Moss, Top Dollar, Aaliyah, Shelton Benjamin, Rick Boogs, Quincy Elliott, Bryson Montana, Dana Brooke, Mace, Mansoor, Dabakato, Shanky, Ulissa Leon, and Daniel MacArthur. So a lot of these people are coming from NXT, which is why maybe some of the people who are listening haven't heard those names. And other than them are genuinely shocking. Dolph Ziggler has worked for WWE for 19 years, and he is kind of a cornerstone of that company, not in terms of like
That is
being
crazy
the top
long
star,
time.
but he is a really, really big name in terms of like he is really great at putting other people over. He's a great jobber. He bumps like nobody's business. Like he's really important to the company in a way that I don't think maybe a lot of people understand. He's great.
Yeah.
Shelton Benjamin, also one of the most talented people probably on that roster and one of the most underappreciated as well.
Mhm.
So there's some really sad cuts. I think probably the most upsetting is that both Emma and Riddick Moss were cut. And they also recently announced that they were getting engaged.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
Oh, you want to get
it's
engaged? Here's our present to you.
Yeah, there's expected to be more cuts throughout the week, although this is probably the majority of them in terms of big names, but there will be a couple more probably throughout the rest of the night and into tomorrow at
I'm
least.
kind of
So,
surprised though by that. I mean, like you said with Dolph and with Shelton Benjamin, like you said, they're staples of
They are.
of that universe, as they like to call it. I'm kind of tired of that, by the way, but they call it the WWE universe. I feel like why not find a role for maybe Shelton? I know he's not out there wrestling like he used to do, but like,
No, he is.
is he still
He's
out
been
there
wrestling week to
wrestling? Wow,
Oh,
really?
every week.
I
Yeah.
I would move him into a role like of development, right?
Him and Dolph would make amazing trainers or coaches
Absolutely.
if they didn't want them to be in the ring anymore, which is, to be fair, they're still both great in the ring.
Yeah. Great
but-
in-ring performers, and Dolph, he sells
Yeah.
moves like nobody else's business. Like I've seen that
he's-
man
he
take
bumps
bumps.
like nobody.
Yeah, man, I've seen that man take some bumps. I'm like, dude, that looked like it hurt. So he
Does
does
it get
that.
annoying when he skins the cat 6 times in one battle royal? Yes. Also,
right.
but that doesn't mean he's bad.
You would think, but you would think though, with them not only becoming a part of the TKO as they call it now, and
Yeah.
WWE now is also being moved. They're gonna they're making big moves rather. So they signed a deal with NBC where they're gonna actually be bringing, wrestling shows to NBC in like I think 4 shows and something of that nature. They're gonna have actual shows on NBC, which is a real lucrative deal, and it's more apparently than what they had with I believe TNT. Was it TNT or I think it's Turner.
Yeah, it wouldn't be TNT because that would be AEW.
Oh, okay, no.
But WWE is SmackDown's on Fox right now, and they're switching over. I think
That's
to
what it was.
USA.
There you
which
go,
is where
Fox.
Raw is.
That's it. It was Fox. So that they're making more apparently going to NBC than they were with Fox all that time. By the way, I mean it's also the first time they'll be going back to like prime time slot on something like that on a major channel.
Prime time.
So you would think though, with all the money they're bringing in, of course, merchandise, everything like that, do you think they have enough to kind of keep those people? But
Yeah, for me, I think the one that's most shocking is, well, probably Dolph, but besides that is Elias, because I know you haven't watched for a while, but Elias was really big for a hot minute. My man would come out and just play guitar, and he would be over like nobody's business. Like he would come out, he wouldn't even have a match. He would just like talk mess about the town he was in, and like get popped so loud that you couldn't hear anything else. He had his like walk with Elias thing. Elias is great. If he doesn't show up in Impact or AEW or something, I'll be shocked. Like that man's career is nowhere near over.
Yeah. Well, good luck to all of them, and they're all affected. But what else do we have?
Last one I got here is the WGA strike might be ending soon. Hopefully, maybe. The writers and producers had a sit-down meeting yesterday and are hoping to come to an agreement either today or tomorrow, although from what I understand, they haven't today. I double-checked before we went live, and I didn't see anything. And analysts are saying that they're relatively confident that they will come to an agreement and close it in the next day or two here, but that if they don't, it will very likely last through the end of the year. So it's going to be either done very soon or not at all. So here's hoping for the former.
Yeah, definitely. And did you have one more?
That's it. That's everything.
All right. So Thank you for that news roundup, sir. We're gonna kind of get through TGS kind of quick, folks, because it wasn't a ton of, and I don't think any of us really expected a ton. But to go back to the whole Final Fantasy thing, you know, we had the discussion of like, I know there was speculation rather of what would we possibly get from Square Enix at TGS. I know that's been on the top of everybody's mind concerning Square. So, I mean, Danny, I'll let you read it because I know you had it harder as the roundup, but you want to read the games that we did get that are coming to Game Pass and et cetera, or to the platform?
Yeah, sure. So just some general highlights. I mean, some of these we already knew, like Persona 3 Reload and Persona 5 Tactica. We saw those again.
Right. And Eodin Chronicles, I believe, as well. Yeah.
Yeah. But some new updates is Octopath Traveler 2 is coming to Xbox, which is great. We didn't get a release date for it, but it's next year, early next year. Honestly, I'm surprised that it wasn't coming there from launch, but you know, it's better than never. I'll take it. We got the Like a Dragon Ishin is coming to Game Pass later this year, and Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, which is, I guess, Yakuza 9?
Technically,
it's the sequel to the new one.
Yeah. Well, that's what Kiryu
got a new trailer.
That's not coming to Game Pass. It's
no,
Like
that one's coming.
The man with the name or something like that.
Yeah. The Man Who Erased His Name is coming day one to Game Pass. Like a Dragon Ishin is coming to Game Pass later this year, and then Infinite Wealth got a new trailer and it's coming in 2024.
And that's not coming to game, well, at least not yet, but I'm sure it will.
Not yet. It'll probably be in there eventually because every other Yakuza game is in there at some point.
Kudos to Microsoft for turning that around.
Sega.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I know Everborn somewhere is probably smiling right now for whatever reason. He doesn't know why, but he's smiling.
Yeah, no joke. Sega is really doing like kind of some heavy lifting for the Game Pass library the last year or two.
Yeah,
and I wonder if that's being done intentionally by Microsoft in a way to like get more Japanese players and Western players attuned to Japanese video games by just being like, it's here. Like we're spending a larger portion of the Game Pass budget on these games so that we can, you know, affect the market in this way. If so, I think it's really intelligent. I'm sure that they thought it out a lot more than I did in this 2 seconds that I've been talking about it right now. But in other news, also the Phoenix Wright trilogy is coming to Game Pass, and the I forget what it's called. I don't have it written down here, but the second trilogy of the ones where you play as the other guy. It's still Ace Attorney, but it's
Miles Edgeworth.
I don't know if it's him even, but there's two trilogies coming, and one of them's going to Game Pass.
Wait. So not only is it the Ace Attorney, like I bought that, by the way. That one of my favorite. I love that series. I love it. If you guys, I know you guys are probably like, I don't want the visual novel thing. I love Ace Attorney. I'm sorry.
Apollo Justice.
Justice was the one. So that's actually coming too. I didn't know that was coming.
There's a trilogy of that, and it's also coming to Xbox. I don't think it's coming to Game Pass, but it is coming to Xbox, which is great.
I'm all for it. I'll buy that too.
And 25.
I'll actually buy that.
Yeah.
I hope they bring the other Phoenix Wright games too, because there are some better looking ones that's more up to date. Yeah. And I never had a chance to actually get them, but I do want to get them. If they bring them over, I'll definitely buy them. But yeah, if you all are on the fence about it, try out those games. It's going to take a lot of reading. Like if you're not a reader, it's probably going to annoy you. But I think just the charm of those games and actually I like mysteries, right? I like solving things like that. When I watch stuff, like I like Columbo. I have an old man soul or something because I like Columbo. You know, like I love that. But now Columbo's a little different because it's less of a whodunit, more of a how do you get them? Because they tell you who do it. They show you who does it, rather. And you have to, Columbo has to come to that realization of who did it and figure it out, right? Which he does spectacularly. But I love stuff like that. So Phoenix Wright speaks to my soul when it comes to that type of thing. Like, who did this thing? How do you catch them? You know, and they kind of do it in a Columbo way too, because they show you sometimes who did the crime in those games. But man, please, guys, I would say if you are like on the fence and you want to try something different, check those games out. And especially with Ace Attorney coming to Game Pass, give it a try.
Yeah, there's no bar to entry anymore. I'm assuming that most people who play on Xbox at this point have Game Pass. So as soon as it drops in there, I highly recommend it. Those games are phenomenal. That's pretty much it for the bigger announcements coming out of it. A lot of the other things was just like hey, Fallout 76's Atlantic City thing is going to be releasing on December 5th, and it's getting like full Japanese localization, and then like Elder Scrolls is getting full localization, and
Which I
Force is
think
getting
is
a
kind of
Japanese themed
big.
track.
That is pretty big.
Sorry, what?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm surprised that didn't exist, but I guess Bethesda was a smaller publisher, so they didn't localize. That's kind of
Yeah, Elder Scrolls was not localized to Japan at all. It
Yeah.
actually wasn't even launched in Japan technically. So
Yeah,
so they're
To
doing that.
localize the live service is a ridiculous amount of work. It's
Yeah, I mean-
ongoing localization.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, you would.
but yeah, that's great news. That's great news.
It
That's
actually
awesome.
is. Fallout 76 too. I know, like, kind of a lot of us kind of like, Fallout 76. We don't, we don't care. But there are actually,
Yeah.
what last I looked, it was like 13 million people actually still playing Fallout 76. Like they, subscribers
it's-
and such. So it's still.
I won't say
lucrative.
it's a good game, but it's a very popular game.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, those who play it, they say they turned it around a lot. So I go by them and listen to them. Like, one of our co-panelists on the Xbox Infinite podcast, Holly, that blue number, she plays it all the time. I think she plays it with Colt. So they love it.
Yeah.
They swear by it. So I never play. I don't think I can. It's kind of hard for me to get into that because where would I have the time? If I really put time into that, I'm already 200 and close to maybe 30 hours in on one of their games right now with Bethesda. If I dare touch ESO or something, I probably won't be able to get a chance to play anything else. So I just can't do
ESO
it.
could be fun. It's like it literally is Elder Scrolls areas around all over the Elder Scrolls. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah,
But yeah,
I will.
There's also Infinity Strash Dragon.
Oh
Quest,
yeah,
right?
I forgot about that. That's right. That's coming to the
Yeah.
platform.
Yeah.
The
that's
dies something. Yeah, that one isn't on the list that I had pulled up
Coming
for some
next
reason,
week.
but you're right.
Yep. That's what was it? Dragon Quest, right? It's Dragon
Yeah,
Quest.
Dragon Quest: The Adventure of Dai.
Yeah, that looks like it could be pretty
Yeah,
fun.
yeah. So,
When
yeah.
it started playing, I thought it was that Sandland game that I think is also coming to Game Pass. They showed it off a little bit as part of like a sizzle reel.
The one by Toriyama.
Um,
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, but yeah, because Dragon Quest is also Toriyama. I'm pretty confident.
Yeah, it is. This is designs for sure.
Yeah, but no, it looked really good. Like I'm very interested in it. I hadn't played any Dragon Quest games until 12. The newest one. I always screw this up. I don't remember if it's 11 or 12. The
11.
newest one that was on Xbox.
It,
11.
it was 11. Yeah.
So I played 11 and I loved it. And then I remember I owned 8 on the PS2 like
Mhm.
way back in the day and never finished it because I was dumb baby boy.
I actually bought 11, by the way. I have that on my Xbox. I just haven't.
It's really good. It's
long.
long as hell,
Is
and
it?
honestly, the opening not good.
Yeah.
But once you get past it,
Once you get
one of
past
my
that,
favorite
it's okay.
JRPGs.
I have to try it out. But one of the things, the highlights for me, Octopath Traveler 2, very, very happy about that. The news of that. I'm surprised it's not coming straight to Game Pass. With the delay of it actually hitting the platform. The first game actually hitting Game Pass, you would think they would have made a deal for that to be in it too. And Square celebrated this, the success they had with Game Pass with that too. And I know they would have got paid a pretty penny from Microsoft to put it in there. So I'm a little surprised that's not coming to Game Pass. But I am happy it's coming to the flat platform because I absolutely will be buying Octopath Traveler 2. One of their, to me, I think, and I'm not the biggest turn-based fan. I loved Octopath Traveler 1. I mean, again, we talk about time investment. I put 250 hours into that game. So I don't play those types of games. So that should tell you everything you need to know. But another thing too was Exo Primal Season 2 is coming straight to Game Pass too. So that's another nice bit of news for it right there. But going back to Octopath Traveler and Square, the new president, his name was, I knew it was something like with a T, so it's Takashi Kiryu. And so his goals for the company is greater portfolio depth, work primarily on HD games and improve overall profitability, and to identify existing IPs and upgrade them to AAA status. So my thing about this is, about TGS specifically regarding Square, is we might not have gotten the news that many of us were anticipating, which was Final Fantasy VII remake and such, right? But which is like long past due at this point. It's like, come on, you all just put the game.
There's
over
got to
with.
be some deal holding that up. That's
It's
the only thing I
gotta
can
be.
think of at this point.
Yeah, otherwise it doesn't make any sense. But I think under Kiryu here, I think that him actually speaking at Xbox's TGS shows that they are clearly talking behind the scenes, and I think we're going to have some major stuff coming from them to the platform sooner than later.
Yeah, I mean, if he's a good businessman, and I'm not, so take this all with a grain of salt. but if he's a good businessman, you'd think he would look at, okay, well, in the past we've done nonstop exclusivity deals with PlayStation, and it hasn't worked out for us financially. So we should stop doing that. And I'm not saying that he will ever probably stop selling his games on PlayStation, but just also sell them other places, dude. Like, we want to play them too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the thing. Like,
yeah, I mean,
don't ignore the
looking at the
platform. Go ahead.
Rebirth exclusivity window is only 3 months,
Mhm.
and I know it took Intergrade 2 years to come to PC, so I dare say you'll see Rebirth come to PC sooner. I think it's probably a matter of resource for what they can get over to the Xbox side. Like, who is going to do a port of Remake to Xbox? So that's the thing they need to figure out. I dare say we'll hear news next year about Final Fantasy back on Xbox. It's just going to take some time.
Yeah. Well, I think you have a point on that too, because so people attribute the Final Fantasy 14 going over to Xbox as being like a thing because of the new president, and I'm sure that he would have done it for sure. But I think that's probably something that's been in the works for a little bit longer than that, because you look at it, and it's like, first of all, that's a huge amount of work to switch a MMO over to a different platform. It's so much work. And then secondly, I think it's a little convenient that the expansion that's coming out alongside the one where it finally comes to like the most popular console in the West is the one where you're going to, quote unquote, the new world, and it's like very clearly like Native American inspired, and like, you know, like very clearly this was planned for a while. So I think that there's definitely more work for them to do on that front in terms of bringing these games over to Xbox. Just strictly, I mean, literally work of porting it to these new platforms. But I do think we'll get it. I hope sooner rather than later, but I do think we will get it.
I hope.
Yeah,
so.
I reckon we'll probably hear about the Pixel remasters coming over within the next 6 months or so.
Yeah, you have to imagine
that's probably the first step.
That right there is still. I mean, we talked about that before, Danny. Like the lack of that not being on the platform when it's on iOS and Android.
That didn't launch on Xbox.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's like, come on, Square. Like, you know, do something like that. What's that they had? They get the little stick and prod them with it. Yeah, it's like, come on. So Bushido said Octopath 2 is coming day and date on Game Pass. No, it's not.
I haven't seen anything that says that, but
see, Bushido.
I don't know. I didn't watch it either though, so I'm only reading the news articles on it.
Yeah, it's Bushido, so I know he doesn't know what he's talking about. But
I'll look it up, but I don't know if that's correct.
Yeah.
So Division 3 was announced, right? When was that?
Division 3 actually was announced. Surprise drop, like just a crazy surprise drop
casually.
announcement. Yeah, like, oh hell, by the way,
I didn't even see
Division 3. Yeah, I was going to put that into that. Did I put that in there? I think I put it.
You might have. There. I didn't see it if you did.
Yeah, I put these articles in so many different spots that I may not have put it in here. Let me see. I don't see it, so maybe not. Nope. You know what? It did happen kind of later in the day. So
I would have been at work anyway.
Yeah.
So I probably wouldn't have seen it.
Yeah. But no, yeah, Division 3 is funny because I had been talking to a friend of mine, Captain Yak, and I pointed out he was like, I don't think they're gonna bring that to the what's up, Boom? I see you, brother. I don't think they're gonna bring that. I don't think they're gonna make a part 3. I'm like, sure they are. I mean, part 1 and 2 both sold over 10 million. I can see, there's no reason for them not to make a part 3. Literally, no reason.
Yeah. Well, and Ubisoft needs a win right now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if this article is correct. It's from Game Reactor, but it says it is going to be dropping into Game Pass day 1.
Ooh.
For Octopath Traveler 2?
Yeah, Octopath Traveler 2, yeah.
Oh, Bushido went in there and hacked their site to put that information.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, hey, if it is coming to Game Pass, then that's a W. But
yeah,
from what it
I didn't
looked
play
like,
the first one, but
yeah, I think you would like it. I think you would like it. But
yeah.
I mean, they didn't show anything. Okay, so I see what you're saying too, and the Game Reactor does say that. You're right. It looks to be. Cool. I think Game Reactor is the only one saying it though. I don't see anybody else. If you look at the other sites,
it might be worth fact checking that.
Yeah. It doesn't.
I'll do it the old-fashioned way. I'll just look up. I'll just pull up literally the stream.
Yeah, pull up the trailer and all that.
Ad for it or something like that.
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, anywhere else it doesn't say that. So I don't know. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, moving from that. Again, guys, we are running this cure cancer with the fix campaign here with our brother Shane here. And if you guys have anything you would love to donate or like to donate rather to the cause, please do so. We have the links inside of the description, and I'll continuously post the actual link to it as well for the fundraiser page. So we appreciate you all. But if you have anything you can donate, please do so. Steph, what's that? Division 3 is something Xbox has to get on Game Pass Day 1. That'd be nice, but
I mean, if they have Ubisoft Plus by the time it comes out, then
right? Exactly. I feel like though, I don't know if Division is something that needs to be brought into the service. Like, I feel like to me, it feels almost like the Division would be a free to play game. Being honest, if
you think they'll do that, do you think they'll go free to play?
I feel like that's the model that they're setting forward. Like that's the thing now. Like you do that, and then of course set up these microtransactions to carry them. I feel like they'll make so much more money doing it that way. Personally,
I would usually agree with you, Umbra, but Ubisoft's gamble on free to play recently has not gone well with obviously oh my god, I'm forgetting their names, Hyperscape and Roller Champions. So yeah, I think they're going to play it safe and just go back to what they do well. Like Rainbow Six, still not a free to play game, does fantastically well for them. That game's carried them the last few years. So yeah, I think there'd be enough hype for a Division 3 that enough people would jump on day one. And hey, then they drop it into Game Pass a year later or whatever, get a second bump.
Is X Defiant supposed to be a free to play, or is that going to be
I believe so.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Okay. So maybe that'll be the test bed, right? If X
100%
Defiant works out.
Yeah. It looks like the most promising one. Which is interesting because even when I was back at Ubisoft, I remember seeing all three before their launch, and X Defiant was the one that looked the most generic. And so I actually had more faith in Hyperscape and Roller Champions just because they looked like they were offering something different. And lo and behold, they're the two that didn't land. So he's hoping X Defiant will. It'll definitely have a larger audience than the former two. So
yeah. Okay, I'm still looking at this Octopath because Bushido was sending me this, and I think the first link you sent me, Bushido, it doesn't say it's coming to Game Pass. It just says that it's coming to the platform. Now the second one is Gaming Bolt. Let's see, launching all live. It's coming to Xbox. It will be blah, blah, blah. Microsoft Store. This one does says while also launching on Game Pass. So I wonder if the old man got it right. Let's see.
Well, while we're talking about things that have been reported in different ways on different platforms, there was also a game announced at TGS called Althea: The Wrath of Aferi that I wrote down here. It's a game that's being made by Swery and Suda51 like collaborating together, which is crazy. And some people are saying it's an Xbox exclusive, and some people are saying it's not. So I don't know. My assumption would be it's not because like it's Japanese.
Other platforms. I thought I saw specifically.
Yeah, I honestly I don't know. But either way, hey, Suda and Swery are making a game together, and it doesn't look good. But I'm glad that they're working together.
Yeah.
Like I'll be honest with you, it does not look like a game I care about.
Yeah.
But I like those two guys. So
Swery, he did that Connect game, right? D4. Does anyone remember that?
D4.
That was him,
was
right?
that a Connect game? Because I didn't play it on Connect.
It was.
You're talking about Dark
Connect
Dreams Don't Die.
well. Yeah,
that's it. Yeah,
you use Connect as well, but you could just play with a controller.
Oh, you could. Okay.
And it was a strange game. I think they just did episode 1 and then it stopped.
Yeah, they never.
I'm looking forward to finishing it, but yeah. Oh well.
There's that guy who was really into his chowder. I remember it vividly.
Yeah, it was. Speaking of that one game, what was that? Hotel Barcelona, and the guy kept Hotel Barcelona. Like, what was he yelling for? Like, what was that about? That was
what are we doing? What's going on?
Yeah, what's going on here? But no, that sounds interesting. I mean, I know people love Suda51, so I would love to see how it turns out. But it did not look that appealing to me. I will be honest.
Yeah, I mean, me neither.
Yeah. So
that was the one by them, right? Hotel Barcelona. That wasn't the one by.
I think that is the one, right? That's them.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. That
maybe
didn't appeal to me. I'm sure it'll have its quirks.
Theirs.
Yeah.
Althea was not by them. That was a separate one.
Yeah, that was I think a smaller indie dev or something like that for them.
Yeah.
And this list I was working on, it needs to work better.
Yeah, but yeah, no, that Hotel Barcelona didn't really
Hotel
catch
Barcelona.
me. I thought the voice acting was kind of cheesy too, being honest. But yeah, so I don't know. But anyway, I do want to move away from the TGS thing because we have so much bigger news.
Yeah.
And I mean, we talk about the leak of the 38 terabytes, being leaked by the pirates, if you will. And I mean, now we have this crazy massive leak, and I think it's fair to say the biggest gaming leak of all time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think what would be before this? Would it be the was it Walmart?
Does the
Their games,
PSN
maybe?
leak count where all of the people's like private information got leaked out?
that's a fair.
That's not the fun kind of leak though.
Yeah,
No, it's not. It's definitely not.
Yeah, but no, I think it would probably have been Epic versus Apple. That was, we got some,
fair point.
unredacted
True, yeah, that was
information
massive.
that we probably weren't supposed to see, but
Yeah.
we did. But yeah, this was way bigger,
Way bigger. And I remember when the S happened.
way dumber.
Yeah.
Somebody needs to be fired.
I'm sure they're fired. Yeah, I don't know if you can make a mistake like this and just be like, oh, okay, just don't do it the next time. I don't think that happens, right?
Your performance review, we have to go over how you leaked everything.
Right. Yes, it's not a good look for them. And I mean, we were all so many theories that were floated around. I remember even putting on a tinfoil hattery and saying maybe it was them personally leaking this, and just throwing it. I didn't really believe it, but I just threw out the idea that it was the FTC trying
I'll
to
add
screw
2 points
them
to
over.
this. Yeah, well, I'll add 2 points to this. I don't think it was the FTC trying to screw them over. I do still think it was the FTC's fault. Because the reports that we saw, while it says it was Microsoft's fault, I don't think that makes sense based on what they're actually saying. Because what they're saying is that Xbox sent the like documents to the FTC, and then the FTC uploaded it. So the FTC must have just like not even looked at it for a second, and they were just like, "That's good to go. Here we go." And like, for all we know, they put in a version that was like one that was redacted and one that wasn't, because they would have had to do that so that the people working there could actually see it. And they just like uploaded the one that wasn't redacted or something. Like I don't know. It seems like it's all up in the air, and it doesn't really matter. But the other thing that I want to point out is I think it's really funny that this has happened. Like, tactically, this was accidentally a really good move for Xbox, because PlayStation had just done the Spider-Man preview event, and it was the first time I'd ever heard anybody talk about Spider-Man in the public, and this completely erased that.
Oh yeah,
space.
It dwarfed all other news.
Poor Spider-Man.
Poor Spider-Man. Poor Spidey. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I think if it had not been for Xbox news, I think for the past 2 years, honestly, Xbox has dominated the news cycle.
I'd have been bored.
Yeah,
I think it's been more than that.
Probably
I think
more.
since, like 2017.
you might be right.
I think it's
If you count
been
bad news, you
Xbox
can count it since
Xbox.
2013.
I was about to say, for good and for bad, it's been a while.
Yeah.
It's been a good decade of talking.
Yeah. It's-
I think there was like a few years in between. Like you probably say like 2013, the announcement was devastating, but it was news. And then like
True.
it sort of slowed down, and then Phil took over and started to turn it around. And then you just got like all these big announcements, and like starting with like the backwards compatibility and then the
Xbox One
acquisitions.
X. All those
just
things
started to become this thing. Like,
So
okay,
true.
we're just gonna keep hearing stuff, and what's next, and what's next. Oh, you bought Bethesda. Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
All right. I still
it's
remember.
like
I
it
still
kept
remember the
going.
Bethesda one. I remember losing my damn mind when it happened. I was like, oh. And then you see ABK,
I was
and it's
losing my
like,
mind about
what?
that.
What happened?
I don't.
So yeah.
I have no way of proving this because it was before I started YouTubing. I predicted that shit. I predicted that Bethesda purchase. Me and my friend Skylar were talking for the longest time about like, what does Xbox need to do to get back on top? And I was like, they should acquire a big chunk of studios. And the thing, and we were big Bethesda fans, so I was like, honestly, they should just buy Bethesda.
It's funny you say that because
And I was like, that makes a lot of sense.
I was actually part of Xbox era's. I believe that, what is the name? You know how they had Reset Era, and people broke off from that, so they made their own site, Xbox Era, and I actually was on there chatting it up and said, like, Microsoft needs to make a big move. At the time, they were kind of stagnant. They didn't have,
Yeah.
So I said they need to make a big purchase. And the people were like, "What about EA?" I'm like, "They can't get EA." That's what people were saying. I mean, we know now that's a lie.
Well, I was saying that they could get Activision, because of all the controversy. But go on, yeah.
Yeah. See,
Yeah.
but like at the time, a lot of people just didn't believe that. It's the same myth that we have with them, an American company acquiring a Japanese company. They can't do that. Yes, they can.
Nothing's possible until it happens. You know what I mean?
Right. And we have actually American companies that own Japanese companies now. So it does happen. But, there are some who are tied to the government, so that they might be prohibited, but that's not all cases. But with that, people were like, "Oh, they can't do this." And I remember floating out, I said, they need to make a gigantic purchase, in my opinion. Go after a big publisher. Go after, somebody like, I even said, I don't think I said Bethesda itself, but I said they need to make a big purchase. And I was alluding to one of these major publishers. Little did I know it would be Bethesda. And then when that news dropped, I was just like, I think my mouth was just wide open for a good 2 minutes. I'm like, what? Like, I couldn't believe it. I could not believe that. And then it made so much sense after the shock wore off. But the ABK thing took me completely by. I was doing a space at the time on Twitter, and that news dropped, and I was like, I thought the person was trolling. I thought they were joking.
Yeah.
I just didn't
It was
believe
going
it.
to be one of the big four, right? It was going to be Ubisoft, EA, Take-Two, or Activision, and I was leaning to Take-Two because it's not as crazy with like the EA Sports license,
Right.
Ubisoft with the Clancy license, right? It's pretty specific to itself, and who cares? You could just take it. It doesn't really matter. They have the NBA 2K thing, but it's very minimal. But the other one I was saying is once that controversy started, I'm like, yo, Activision just plummeted.
Yeah.
This is the time to pick them up.
Now is the
Right?
time.
Like, this is the time to pick them up. Because you're even at $95 a share, that's still less than what it was worth at its peak. Right? So you're getting this at a massive bargain. Right? So go for it, right? I think they're paying 68, whatever it is. It was worth like 95 at one point, 95 billion.
Wow.
Right? And it's come down, so it was down to 40 something. And that's when they offered, right? And we'll pay you enough to give you 70 billion and pick it up, right? So I'm like, dude, this is the time. It's like lost most of its value, and it's not like it's not making money. They're still selling.
They're still
selling their
making
games.
money. Oh yeah.
They're still making money, hand over fist.
Sure.
So it's really just an image problem. And who better to cleanse your image?
Absolutely.
Than squeaky clean, best in the world, best place to work, all the like woke stuff. They do everything. Like,
so
Microsoft.
true. So true.
Like, go clean it up.
Yeah.
Right. Like it just made a lot of sense. But yeah, the number of people in comments like they can't do this, they can't. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Like, dude, you know how much money they have? They can absolutely.
I think now, I think we're past that point now. Like when I see people doubt them still now, it's like just stop. Like we've had this conversation already. They absolutely can buy some things. Like maybe sure they wouldn't go off and buy Nintendo, right? And a lot of that was brought up into this league too, of course.
Yeah.
But I think that was just aspirational talk. I don't think Phil was
if you
actually
read the
thinking
email,
that.
right? It was a question from, I think it was a board member saying, "Hey, what are the chances of this?" And he said, "Well, though it would be awesome, it's just not feasible," right? And like that was really the tone of the
That's
email,
why I think it's so funny that so many of the like articles, the titles of them have been like, Phil Spencer really wanted to buy Nintendo. He knew he needed Nintendo. And it's like, did you even read the first sentence?
Like buttering up the fact that Nintendo is freaking awesome.
Yeah.
And yes, it would be so cool to have, but it's like, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah. Like it'd be a career moment, as he put it, right? But
yeah, exactly. It's just not going to happen.
Right.
So,
Also, I find it funny that people don't realize they don't really take in his sentiment, right? Like when you think about Nintendo's going to get to the point where what they have right now isn't enough, and they're obviously going to want more. And so how do they grow their business? And it's either you sell more Switches, or handhelds, which is going to be really hard to do, or you find ways to reach other people. And I know I'm completely aligned with Phil on this. Like, can you imagine if you took Nintendo's catalog of software, Microsoft's infrastructure, and you could be playing Mario Kart on any TV, and all you need is a controller? That that's Nintendo's future. Whether it's
Yeah.
10, 20 years from now, it's irrelevant how long it takes.
Yeah.
But that's how Nintendo
Yeah,
becomes
he's like,
ubiquitous.
"We'll play the long game on this, right?" And he keeps working with
Exactly.
them to say, like, when do you want to go past where you are, right? And
Mhm.
it
Yeah.
could still be on their hardware, right? But they could
100%, yeah.
absolutely leverage the back end. And like, we have to admit that the Nintendo online stuff is pretty abysmal.
Yeah, very much
it just
so.
is.
Yeah,
So-
and that's what Phil was saying, right? Like, he was saying like the most viable partner in the West for Nintendo when they look to grow in the future is going to be Microsoft.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
they're going to be there with open arms when they finally come to that realization.
Yep.
Um,
it's
well, they
an
have
open
been
market, so they
partnering
wanna
on
work
smaller
with
things
Amazon
already.
or Google, but,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, they have a good relationship, and they're right across from each other, right? So
Sure would be a shame if Microsoft came and liberated Nintendo. I saw so many reactions. People were like, "Oh God, please no!" It's like, relax.
It's like it's not gonna
yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
There's very few that I can 100% rule off the table as being like actually acquirable by Xbox.
Mhm.
I don't think that any trade commission would let them buy
Not at all.
PlayStation or Nintendo
Not at all.
or probably even
Yeah.
Valve, because like
Horizontals
Valve
would
already
never
kind of
happen.
has a monopoly.
Yeah,
would never
it would. That constitutes as a horizontal, correct?
Yeah, yeah, and if Nintendo got out of the market for consoles, then okay, then it's a possibility, right?
Right.
Just like Sega. But if they're in the console market, of the three players, they're not buying each other. That's just not gonna happen.
Yeah, and it makes sense because that even I, as a super fan, maybe even Drawn TJ, better yet, would even be like, that's a tad
That's a
too
lot.
much. Yeah.
But,
Hey, homie,
like,
maybe
the
chill
point of
on that one, though.
licensing, I mean, that would be fantastic. Microsoft has been very generous with games on the other platform, right? They
yeah.
put their stuff on both
Yep.
PlayStation and Nintendo.
So true.
It would be nice if there was some reciprocity.
Wouldn't it be nice to see maybe Mario Kart pop up
Yeah.
in Game Pass? Yeah, that'd be nice.
I mean,
Right?
if you got the ones that people don't really talk about as being top tier Nintendo games like Fire Emblem or Blade Chronicles, those are really the only Nintendo games I care about. So just put those on Xbox, and then I can throw my Switch in
What
the
was that?
absolute
Was it
dumpster.
Animal Crossing, that was that big. Like,
Oh,
multi-
yeah.
I did play Animal Crossing a lot.
Animal
too, that's
Crossing
true.
was
Makes
massive
so
for
much
them.
sense over here, right?
It
Wouldn't
actually
like,
would make a lot of sense to put that on multiple
I mean, like,
platforms.
yeah, why not?
That
right?
could be their
Well, it already
Minecraft.
sold so much. Like, just
Yeah.
make it massive, right?
So true. Yeah, that
One of the
could be their
things that
Minecraft.
I'm most worried about is, they've had this run of fantastic games at Nintendo because of like the head of their gaming, right? But
Mhm.
that person eventually is going to retire.
Yeah,
And
true.
is the succession plan good enough, right? Because as we saw, right, as Phil was mentioning, when the head goes,
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
you don't know if that studio is really going to.
Yeah, what happens to Mario when
And-
Miyamoto retires?
Exactly, like Mario, Zelda, right? Like those games are fantastic because he's still there, right? The question is,
Mhm.
well, has he trained up the folks, in succession planning to say you guys can now do this? And maybe they are. Maybe they're
Maybe.
doing it, and it's all good, right?
You
But
could say he's grooming them. Could you say?
yeah,
Argue?
right.
But you
But
know,
I don't know what that's
yeah.
gonna be like, and I'm dreading the time when these games, because they still the mainline games still come out mid-90s,
Yeah.
right? And they do for a reason. They're really good, and they keep reinventing,
Mm-hmm.
right? And yet they still manage to make awesome games. What happens when that drops off, right?
So,
and that's going to happen at some point, and it's going to be a sad day, but it's
It
gonna happen.
is. And and speaking of new heads coming into play, we have the generous, as one would say, the stupendous $1.99 donation from Spartan661. He says P3 for Microsoft head CEO in the next 10 to 15 years.
Ooh.
Yeah, I don't know if it'll be that long. I think I'm feeling like Sarah Bond might take over after a while, Spartan.
But I mean, how old is he? He's like,
Phil has to be in his 50s, yeah.
yeah. So
I even saw a little bit of his hair kind of. In some images I saw at TGS, a little of his hair kind of going bald there in the back area. I saw a little of that. I'm like, oh, Phil, you're getting up in age. Phil is the man. But yeah, I don't think he'll be there for that long, Spartan, man. But I wouldn't be against it. I love Phil, so all for it. Xbox wouldn't be Xbox right now without him. I think it's fair to say.
Absolutely.
But some of the leaks, though, so to quickly go over this, because this has been talked through on the money. I'm sure you all in the chat have been on other podcasts and they've talked about it through to death. But so I'll kind of gloss over some things, but I'll name some bigger. I mean, everything in it was big, but I'll name
There's a lot
some.
of big stuff.
It was. So I'll kind of breeze through what some of the bigger things before I move to the most major. Obviously, with Xbox possibly trying to acquire Warner Brothers, Valve, and of course, just floating the idea of Nintendo. They didn't really think it was feasible, obviously. Then you had the Oblivion and Fallout 3 remasters that was leaked.
Hell yeah.
So that right there is a major plus. I mean,
Those are
Oblivion,
for me.
Huge.
absolutely. Fallout 3 is
Yeah.
most people feel that's the best Fallout from what I've talked and seen. Oblivion is on my Mount Rushmore of games. So
Yeah.
I mean, that's a
Well,
good
and
deal.
so this document that we're taking this from is from like 2020 because
Mhm.
it's all the way back then. And we've heard, or I've heard specifically through one Mr. Matty Plays, that it's not a remaster, but it's a remake for Fallout 3. Those were the rumblings that he had been hearing. So it may have at some point changed to a full remake.
I
And if
would
that's
be
the
all
case,
happy for that if it
I
was.
will.
Yeah.
I will fully poop my pants because I need it.
I wonder what they use the creation engine, the newest creation engine for it, or if they use a different, maybe proprietary engine altogether. Because I heard something about a side-loaded thing where they could use creation and Unreal at the same time or something.
Where Unreal would handle like the UI and stuff. And
Exactly.
Then the physics and stuff would be creation. Yeah, I mean that's definitely a thing. I'm sure it's more complicated than just how it sounds. But I mean, if they make it work, they make it work.
Yeah, Shane, you would probably know something about that, right? Like, as far as how that works with that, because yeah, the idea that I heard floated around was that they would use both engines in conjunction, Unreal and possibly creation, to achieve that desired effect for Oblivion and Fallout. Do you know anything about that? Is that like any of your?
No, engine's not really something I'm familiar with. So
Okay.
it's just such a I mean, you're talking about a 2-generation back game and bringing it forward and reimagining it. How much of the original creation engine still exists within the current creation engine used for Starfield? I'm not sure. I think obviously a remake would be amazing for Fallout 3, but that is just a project on a entirely different level. And when you look at so if we're looking at the same ZeniMax management forecast table that shows it, they've only got 190 million forecasted against it in FY24. This is obviously the game is probably well pushed back now, so that tells me that at least at the time it was a remaster.
Okay.
Because you'd make so much more on a remake. What's interesting here is Doom Year Zero, almost $500 million. I don't know that the first two Dooms did that well, but that's pushing closer to Starfield numbers.
It really is.
Can I tell you the thing on here that blew me away the most is, and are you showing it on screen right now, or is it gameplay?
No,
you're showing it.
Yeah, I'm showing the slide of the image. Yeah.
The thing that blew me away on this was that they at some point were thinking that Elder Scrolls 6 was going to come out only 3 years after Starfield.
Yeah, it's like, come on.
Like, what?
How did they think that? That's what I said. I'm like, that's
look,
ridiculous.
if they can get that done, I'll take it. If it's working and it's good in 3 years, I'll be thrilled.
That's why I think some of these,
right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because
this
at
is
the time
FY
they were
2020,
saying, at the time they were saying that Starfield would be 2021, and then and
that would be a 5-year horizon to get ES6, right? That's kind of the thought, I think.
No, because in the thing here they have it where they have Elder Scrolls 6 slated for like 2024 or something.
2024.
I'll pull it up on screen too.
So the gap that they had between it was like 3 years.
Yeah, there are a couple of really interesting things you can pull from the revenue forecast, and that is this mystery licensed IP game, 225 million in its first year, and they forecasted 230 for Indiana Jones. So they think this other licensed game they have is as big as Indiana Jones. So that's interesting. Project Kestrel, 280 million. So a game that would do better than Indiana Jones. Project Platinum at 125, which is about between like a Dishonored or a Redfall type forecast as well. I'm really not sure about Ghostwire 2 and Dishonored 3. I think because this is a forecast before Deathloop's success, pardon me. I wouldn't put money on that actually being a thing. I think that's
probably coming from Bethesda, right? You would think.
Oh, 100%.
Right? Because like most of this, right, would have been before they really assessed what's going on with the games.
Yeah.
Because they hadn't acquired them until the end, like it was, or was it 2021, like March or something like that?
I think they closed it in 2021.
They closed March 21. I think they announced it
Yeah.
September 2020.
Yeah.
So so this is a forecast before
yeah.
Xbox's acquisition of them. So yeah, it's interesting. I'm not sure. I wouldn't put money on Ghostwire 2 and Dishonored 3 actually being a thing. I think this is a management team who is just trying to map out the next 5 years with very little clarity. I think there's a lot of assumptions here.
That's fair. I think though with Ghostwire 2, I think it still will happen. I just think it won't be anytime soon.
Sure.
From the years that they've shown, right? Obviously the years are skewed here. Like seeing obviously like the Elder Scrolls being in 2024, that's not happening, right? So I wonder just how far back these will be pushed. I think that's the biggest thing. We have the Doom Year Zero DLC they show here. It's a lot of good stuff. I mean, the biggest things I think that we can all point to is Elder Scrolls Oblivion and Fallout 3 remakes or remasters. To me, those was like those were eye-opening for me. And also too, we had the Dishonored 3 listed as well. So those are pretty massive.
Doom Year Zero, which I don't know. That's
I guess it's an expansion.
Still on, maybe not.
Yeah. Of course, they had Project Hibiki, which we know was Hi-Fi Rush. So like, a lot of this is interesting. Obviously, you have Indiana Jones mentioned. So, and that was 2022. So it's possible you can get Indiana Jones next year. I would say 2024 for Indiana Jones. I think everything here is going to be pushed back at least a year or two from what we're seeing.
Yeah, agreed. Although, we just don't know what Bethesda's 2024 is going to look like. So, if you had just trying to see here, when was that? Yeah, so the Oblivion remaster was originally FY22. So hopefully that's an FY24 thing. And I would say,
I can see that.
Yeah.
Then you had people too. What happened with Halo? It's doomed. They didn't mention it here in the leak.
I can't believe they didn't mention it on the Bethesda
I know.
page.
Can you not? I can't believe ZeniMax didn't do the forecast for Halo revenue.
Right.
Just really
before being purchased even.
Oh no, poor Halo.
That's shoddy craftsmanship right there.
I think it goes to show that. I think it goes to show that there is always some type of negative spin when it comes to Microsoft and Xbox. When it comes to some people's minds, they always look for the negative. Yeah.
And now they're
going to so Vinny in the chat.
Right, and it's Phil lied. See, he
right.
lied.
Oh, they got him.
Like, Jesus, dude.
It's a combination of people just like always want to be very polar on it, where they want to be like, it's the best thing ever, it's the worst thing ever, and then it's also that paired with the fact that like very clearly people just read the headlines and don't know what they're talking about, but they speak as though they have, which is great.
Yeah, but they always, of course. It's a name for that too, but people do that all the time. I just didn't care because people made videos about that. Oh, Halo is doomed, it's dead. They didn't mention it in the leaks.
Yeah,
it's like idiot.
Like, bruh,
this was that you noticed that there
did
was
you notice they didn't say anything about Fable too?
There were no other There were actually no Xbox Game Studio games listed. Did you not notice that? So all those have disappeared too, I guess, right? It's like people don't use their brains. But so another thing that was mentioned is that, or at least shown in the leaks, were that Microsoft was shooting for 100 million Game Pass subscribers in the next 8 years or less. And I saw a lot of our Hoove brothers trying to hone in on Phil's statement that they would leave gaming if they didn't reach a certain number by 2027 or whatever, or 2028. And it's like, these things are in flux. They're not set in stone. These things change.
Yeah, you don't spend like $80 million, or sorry, what are we at now? 69,
70. Let's just say 70 billion.
We're at like 70 billion.
Yeah,
I don't even know. We're at a huge amount of money spent. You don't spend that much money and then just be like, well, didn't work out in like 2 years. You
Right.
don't do that.
Exactly. It's like,
especially when one of the other things that we saw in here is that in terms of raw profit, they actually make more profit, or at least they did a couple years back, than than PlayStation, at least. I don't remember if they made more than Nintendo.
Yeah, I wonder if Colin will recant his bullshit.
I doubt it.
Right.
Is that going to happen? Colin me out here, buddy.
Speaking of
recant your bullshit.
Speaking of old Colin and PlayStation, our good brother Uso Vinny drops a generous $1.99 super chat. He says he fully expects his super chat to be read. He says PlayStation better. I'm assuming that's how he said it when he said it too. PlayStation better. So yeah, but I agree with you, Yobi. Yobi said he believes ES6, Elder Scrolls 6 will be a launch title for next gen. I can see that.
It feels right.
Yeah,
It does.
It'd be huge too. The only problem with that would be then there's going to be the negativity of like, oh, but like it's not going to take the full power of the new console because it's going to be cross generation like we get with every launch title game.
Yep.
So just like look forward to that. I mean, the game will still be great, but like people will talk mess about it.
They will whine
just to be mean.
Interesting how if we just go back quickly to the that revenue forecast, so they forecasted 600 million in its first year for Starfield. They forecasted 1 billion in its first year for Elder Scrolls 6. So
wow,
yeah,
honestly?
that's like half of their revenue for that whenever it launches, I'd say.
I wonder how that'll be affected now that there's allegedly it'll be just exclusive to Xbox and PC.
Yeah, true. I think it'll still do phenomenally, whether it hits
It'll
a billion
still do
rev. Yeah.
Crazy numbers.
Yeah, I fully expect that. I have a crazy alarm going off in the background, so excuse me, folks. I don't know if you all can hear that.
We can't super hear it, but it is there a little bit.
Yeah, it's stopped now. There we go. Okay.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so I was trying to mute the mic as it happened, but anyway, PlayStation bitter. I agree, Paul P-Teen, absolutely. So I mean, outside of those major things, the biggest major points too is that we also saw about the new Xbox consoles and such, at least. So they have a new Series S, codenamed Elwood, that will be dropping August to September 2025, according to the docs. Now, I'm sure, again, this stuff changes. And Phil did come out and say a lot of this was previous thoughts and plans, and that they change, which we all assumed. I'm pretty sure that these things.
No, Umbra, it's sacrosanct. If it doesn't come out exactly as described,
then Phil lied. Right.
If they change the curvature on this spherical console by a single degree, I swear on Christ Almighty, I will call for Sarah Bonds to be fired.
Oh my God.
I thought you said it'd be black. It's white.
This is clearly charcoal.
Right. Look
Oh,
at this. The X woke box. So
Oh my God.
the Project Elwood, codename Elwood, is coming August to September of 2025, and that's interesting because, I guess I'll read both. And the Series X, the next one, which is all digital, digital master race, stand up. I'm sorry, I've been all digital since the beginning of Xbox One. Not going back.
Well, that's because you're in Chicago and all the stores shut down at 5, so they don't get burned out.
Yeah, that's fair.
No, it's not fair. I'll take that.
You got to roll with the punches, I've learned. And the Xbox Series X, codename Brooklyn. Hello, Brooklyn. So you got Brooklyn and Elwood. It makes me wonder, because if seeing these two, how does it play out as far as the SKUs game go? So you have the original Series S, and how does that transition? Are they going to transition that out? Do you to you guys? And I pose this question to the panel. Like, I'll ask two questions. One being, how advantageous do you think it'll be for them to have so many SKUs, or will it be a disadvantage, or do you think they'll phase one out?
It's not a different SKU though, right?
It's the same power. It's just
same power. I think, but I think they consider it a different SKU if it's a different model, right?
It is technically a different SKU, yes. In that, like, a green controller is a different SKU from a red controller,
right?
But they won't have to build it any different, at least not to my knowledge, because it's basically just a slim model. It has a bigger hard drive. Apparently, it's like 2 terabytes, which sounds great.
Now, is that for the Series S, or are you talking about for the X?
I think that was for the X.
They already did it for the
That's
S,
for
right?
Brooklyn. Yeah, Elwood's a terabyte.
Yeah.
Okay, so Elwood, it was the black terabyte version.
Yep.
Got you. Okay, I thought it was a newer, different one outside of that.
Oh, that's true. I hadn't even considered that. The Elwood might literally be the one we already
Yeah, we got it.
Right.
We already
Okay.
got it.
I
Okay.
didn't even think about
Well, I'm not sure we do because this is saying.
It didn't have Wi-Fi 6 or whatever, right? The upgraded stats. Is that
Well,
right?
that's right. And then there's USB-C at the front of this one as well, which I don't think the new black one has either. So I think the Elwood is a new SKU, and it's saying 1 terabyte for $299. So they're currently selling the Black Series S at $399, if I'm not mistaken. And then it says later on in the slide that they'd phase out Edith, which is the 512 gigabyte.
Yep.
Edith for $199. So this sounds like this becomes the new base Series S.
Yeah, the base Series S is now
$299.
$350, right? And
It also said in documents that it would take it down the original base Series S to $199. So I'm
which they
yeah.
haven't
So
been
that
able to do,
last
right?
chance
Because
Edith
of
at 512
supply
gigabytes
chain.
at $199. Yeah.
Yeah.
Before end of life. So yeah, they're phasing out Edith, which is the first Series S.
in this
Yeah.
I
one.
say this becomes the
Ah.
base and probably replaces the current black one, or maybe the black one just gets the same form factor as in USB-C.
Okay.
Um,
I'm
Yeah.
all for replacing all USBs with USB-C. It's just better.
It
Yeah,
may not
I'm
have
with you on that.
happened though, right? Just like
So
we were
just do
saying,
it.
like some of these specs may not come in, right?
Yeah, or they'll be
And it-
different.
Yeah, it may
Hmm.
just be that like, okay, the chip would cost so much more, and with all the shortages we're having and the supply chain issues, we're just not going to bother, right? It's not enough of a useful upgrade for the customer. The one that's annoying to me is the controller. I actually kind of like some of the ideas, as long as it doesn't kill the battery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and we'll get to that for sure. One thing that I do want to throw in about the console before we move on to the controller, though, is I've seen some people taking this and running it to be like, this is the death of physical games. And it's like, okay, first of all, physical games have been going out for a while. They've been on life support for a minute. And second of all, I don't think physical games are going to just cease to exist. I think we're going to get into a place where it's like a CD or like a DVD. Like you can still go to the store and buy it. Most people don't, but like we have them. You know, I think it's going to be that situation where like if you're any of the big three, you cannot be the first person to get rid of physical media. You will be crucified.
Yeah.
You cannot cut out
So
that secondary
all
sales
these,
market or the ability to trade your games with friends. You can't do that, right? People are choosing to go digital and they're choosing to give up that, but you can't remove that option from people. And I think that we're gonna get to a point where it's literally like music, where almost nobody buys physical, but I think physical will still exist, and there'll probably be some things that don't have physical releases, but I think physical will always exist to some extent.
Didn't
I agree.
PlayStation put out a patent on doing exactly that? They're going to make an all digital console that will be their console. That's it. They already have one, right? But that's going to be their console, and you'll have an external accessory if you want to have the physical.
Yeah, and I could see that being the case too. But also the thing about it is like an optical drive or like a disc drive is like the cheapest part in the console.
Yeah.
Like cutting it out would make minimal difference. It's honestly not even worth it.
It's not that cheap that it isn't worth taking out. Plus, it takes.
I guess not when you're looking at like huge bulk
So
numbers, but like
and that's what it is. We
when I
would
bought one
think
for my
like,
PC,
hey,
it
it's
was
only
very small.
$10 or something. In the case of making millions of anything, 20 cents is a big deal. 5 cents. Is a
yeah,
big
I mean
deal.
you are right.
So they will find any way to cut back, and I agree with them because I think the majority of people don't care. I've heard a lot of people say I've never used the drive, but I like it because I can play my 4K Blu-rays, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
and
to be clear,
also-
I'm very pro physical stuff. I like having the I enjoy having the collection. I like having the shelf, but I like being able to trade my game to a person. I like being able to be like, hey, have you played Starfield and you don't have Game Pass? Cool, here's
the
this.
disc, right? Yeah, but
Right, I
also,
like being able to
have
do
a whole
that.
bunch of old games, right? I just have like my 360
Yeah.
library. I have my original Xbox, right? I just have a whole bunch of games, Xbox One games. I can just throw them in, right? It just works, right? So like, why not keep it? I think it's a good option to have. I would love it to be an accessory because then it gives me the option on the S as well, right?
Yep.
Which
Yeah.
in the majority, I have like 5 Xboxes in the house. All of them could be S's if it wasn't for the disc drive. Right. If they gave me
Yeah.
that accessory, I would just get S's because in the majority of the cases they don't play the games. Like it's just if some kid comes over and wants to play something, here you go, go ahead, play whatever TV you want. Just stay out of my room. And you can
Yeah,
play
go
whatever
play it
you
over
want
there.
here.
Just get away from me,
Yeah,
kid.
exactly. And that's perfectly fine for that, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't care what resolution you're playing at. You enjoy the
Yeah.
games you get to play, right? So, but it needs to play the media. It needs to have the ability to play the movies. That's
Yeah.
the part that becomes a pain, right? And
Yeah.
I would do that in a heartbeat. I would just get like the accessory. I hope they do that if they're gonna go all digital. Give me the accessory and I can plug it into either one of the
Absolutely.
consoles.
I think that
That'd
that's
be
a very likely case because it's this situation where like it's the exact same thing as music or film or anything like that. Is you have all these analysts who are like, oh, it's the death of movie theaters, it's the death of CDs or whatever, and like movie theaters just had the best summer that they've had in like 30 years.
It's kind of
Yeah.
crazy. isn't it?
So
That's
it's
an
like
experience, right? That's the
Yeah,
point
like,
of the movie theaters.
there is a reason that these options exist, and it might
Mhm.
not be the most popular option anymore, but it's not going to just cease to exist. You can go to Target right now and buy a damn vinyl, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and to your point, Danny, around no platform holder wants to be the first to pull that trigger. You think about like how few people care about physical now. Imagine how much fewer people are going to care in 2028
Mhm.
when the new consoles come
Yep.
around. So yeah, as much as God bless them, the fans of physical media, they still exist, and that's great.
They are
like you said,
me.
physical,
we are
physical will still be relevant, but
strong.
it's slowly gonna that tiny, very vocal crowd is going to get quieter and quieter as the years go
Yeah.
on. So,
Although I will say, even though physical media does not exist on the PC space like at all, I recently bought a new computer and I didn't even look at if it had a disk drive, and it showed up,
Yeah.
and it still got one.
oh,
It
there you
still
go.
got a disk drive. Like I could,
It's a
I
collector's
could
item
put,
now.
So
I could put an old
so the
discs in there right now. I could play Age of Mythology on there right now.
but would you
Yeah, I
want
actually
to
thought one
though?
was so good.
But no,
I mean, yeah,
You
it's a
want
good
to.
game.
so my thing though to you guys to kind of round it up on this, there was also there goes the alarm again. There was also a leak for the core controller. What are you guys' thoughts on that as well with the core controller? And I have a main question about the new Xbox mid-gen refresh here, but let me see if there's an image for it. But it doesn't have an image here. I'm on Axios, but they have the controller as well. What are you guys' thoughts about the core controller?
First thoughts: don't like the way it looks.
Nah, same.
Don't like the weird like dipped bottom thing. I think that's ugly. In terms of all the stuff that they're adding, I do think that's cool. I'm one of the people, I don't think haptics does anything. I think it's a buzzword for just like better vibration, because it literally is. And especially in the case of like I'll be playing a PlayStation game where they're like, look, it feels different when you walk on glass than when you walk on sand, and it's like, well, it vibrates slightly different, but really what you're being tricked by is the fact that the controller is playing the sound of you walking on sand or glass. Like it's really not that impressive of technology. So I don't know, maybe if it's on every controller they'll do something more interesting with it, but right now I'm just like, what's the point? Who cares? Whatever. I guess it's good that it'll be in there just so that people can shut up about it. And it's the same thing with the battery. I prefer having batteries that I can take out and replace, and it seems like this is a good middle ground where it's a rechargeable one that comes with the console, and then you could presumably, because it says you can swap them out,
Yep.
that if it dies like my PlayStation past, I can just go to the store and buy a new specifically Xbox battery, which is effectively what I do right now already, because I have the plug and play kit, and if that battery goes bad, I'll just buy another plug and play kit. So
yeah, it seems like that perfect middle ground. Like you said, it solves both problems of just like, yeah, we don't want the lithium battery that's going to die and then we have to replace the whole controller. At the same time, we don't want to be, using batteries that we just throw away over and over again. I like the seamless pair and switch stuff. Like that ubiquity is really good. Like you said, don't like the look. I really hope it's not a gloss finish like it appears to be in that mock-up.
It does appear to be a glossy.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that. I much prefer the matte feel that they have right now. So he's hoping that that's not the case. Other than that, I mean, the ergonomics look like it's quite smaller. Like maybe
I thought that too, but
curvy.
they say allegedly they're saying that it's about the same as the.
I think it's
Yeah.
an optical illusion. Because
Potentially.
because the top is black and the bottom is black, they've effectively put your controller in widescreen, and so everything's looking a little smushed.
Yeah, true. It kind of looks like it's someone's like taken the Xbox controller and just like try to smush it into the form of a DualSense, and just like really squeeze it. So, but at the end of the day, I'll wait to get my hands on it to be the judge.
Yeah.
But I think in terms of features, it sounds great.
It does sound great. Like I like the feature of you being able to
notice
lift
this
it
right now. I'm sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, go ahead.
The lift awake, exactly. I just saw that. What is that?
That's what I was
Is that
going
going
to
turn my Xbox on? I don't want that.
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure you could turn it off.
I don't want to pick up my controller and have it turn on my Xbox.
Yeah, I mean, you could turn. I'm sure they'll have the option to turn it off. But I like that idea. I like the forward thinking of that when you could just pick it up. And I mean, it saves me time having to hold down the Xbox button or whatever, right? Like that's pretty cool. You put the controller down somewhere, and when you're ready to start up, you just pick it up and it turns on. I think that's actually pretty dope to me. I like stuff like that. Very future forward, I think. But outside of that, when I saw the controller, my thought was, this is the controller for the next gen console, right? And then you see the haptics and the gyros being added. So I thought this would be a new controller all the way for the next console, personally. And that might be the case, actually. It might be the baseline for the next console. But that was my thought. But it's the core, so it's still under the Elite as far as features and things of that nature. But I believe they have an Elite version of it too. They were talking about.
Yeah, and that's the other thing that's interesting to me is that they're gonna have an Elite version. That finally get an upgraded version of the Elite, right? Which is still an Xbox One controller, not even an Xbox Series controller. So we finally do get the full feature set of the Xbox Series controller in an Elite. I like the lift awake. It just depends on the implementation, right? If it lifts awake and just tries to say, "Hey, is the Xbox on?" Cool, I'll connect. If it's connected to a TV or a PC, hey, is the PC available? Is the TV available? I'll just pair up with Bluetooth or whatever, right? That's kind of cool.
That is pretty cool.
Kind of just works.
Yeah.
And if you really want to turn your Xbox on, sure, hold down the Xbox button, it'll turn your Xbox on, right? And that way you kind of get the best of both worlds. But yeah, it's kind of a cool feature. The modular thumbsticks, that's another thing that's interesting. Depending on how they make that work, maybe that means you can actually swap them out. And that's from a like your controller dying perspective. That's kind of cool. The one that usually happens to me though is the right bumper. It's usually the one that goes.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they have a way to swap that out. But look, I don't know when this was from. Was this 2020, 2021, 2022, right? So I don't know how much this has changed. What was that?
It's unclear.
Yeah, so I don't know how much this has changed, right? So and again, I'm sure if this thing comes out and like 3 features aren't there, Phil's he loves.
I don't think this deck is really old, because when you look at the path to leadership in gaming slide, the earliest it goes back is FY23. So you assume that if it was any earlier, that they would have mapped it out from FY22 or further or earlier. So
I mean, that would make sense. So a lot of this must be from like multiple different decks going together then.
Yeah.
Because clearly the Bethesda thing is from before that.
Yeah.
Yeah, potentially.
I mean, so another thing I thought too was this. So we have the rumors, and I believe that this gentleman, Tom Henderson. So Tom Henderson, if you all don't know in the chat, he had revealed things about the PlayStation Q before we saw it, and other things concerning PlayStation. He was spot on. Like, we know that he's an insider. He has inside connections at the very least. He has his own site called Inside Gaming. You all have likely seen him on Twitter or X, or whatever the hell you call that site now. And so he had alluded to that, and he also said that PlayStation is coming out with a pro console. And my thought immediately went to, well, Microsoft naturally has to match that, right? Going back to what we had in the Xbox One generation, PS4 generation, 8th gen, where PlayStation did their Pro and Microsoft eventually had their Xbox One X, which I had, by the way. So my thinking was this: PlayStation is not doing a half measure. They're going full out with the Pro. We haven't heard confirmation, but I'm going to go with the notion that it exists from rumors saying that devs are getting their hands on it. Shane, you want to tell us something shocking and breaking news? No, I'm joking. And so I'm assuming, I'm going to take that as it being real. My question to you guys, with what we got here with the specs of this new model mid-gen refresh digital Xbox X Series X rather, do you think this is a half step in that Microsoft should have gone with the Pro model, or do you like this and you accepting that it's removing the disk tray and giving us another terabyte of memory? Like, what are you guys' thoughts on that? And you know what? Before you guys go, let me read this super chat. Spartan661, generous donation of $9.99. He says, hashtag Phil Spencer, aka P3, Microsoft's new CEO in time. It is an intern's dream, and his ambitions hasn't been rivaled. Jim Ryan has been in hiding since he signed the Activision deal. in my opinion. Phil can do it. Hey, I mean, if he can last 10 or 15 more years, man, all love to him. I hope so, but I just
He
don't
definitely
think he
could
will.
last that long. It's just a matter of if he would want to.
Right? Would he want to? Yeah. Would
Yeah.
he want to still be around doing that? I don't know. But
Any guesses on when you think he'll retire? I've got a feeling he'll be.
I don't even
he'll
want
be
to put
gone.
that energy out there.
Yeah.
I'm scared.
Fair. Yeah.
I would
just think
say
that
by next gen, maybe the beginning of next gen. Maybe
That's
he'll
what I was going to
transition.
say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see that.
You don't want to go into next gen then hand off the keys. I'd say
Exactly.
you pass the keys before next gen.
Yeah.
So
Maybe
look,
at the
a
end
few
of
more
this.
years of Phil.
Fair enough. Yeah, I can see that. That makes some sense. I think it's all. I think it's pretty clear he's setting up Sarah to be the new person in charge. To me, at least, that's what it looks like. Yeah.
Just on So I've got a few thoughts on this, Umbra. So when you think about mid-gen refresh, right?
Yeah.
Who's it targeting? It's targeting the existing player base, and it's about getting a second dip of revenue from them.
Right.
So I think obviously it worked well enough for PlayStation that they're going to do it again with a PS5 Pro, or so says the rumor. Xbox is taking a different approach, and from what we've heard is that of all the Xbox consoles that have sold this generation, the Series S has sold the most. So, and that's probably the SKU in which they're getting the greater profit from. So I think this is a profit play, and if you are worried about optics, then I think Xbox potentially finds themselves in the position where they've lost the power narrative as of holiday of next year. So it'd be a question of how much does that actually matter to them now. Now we know it's pretty important to some hardcore Xbox fans, but how important does that remain to Microsoft? For me, it's not. It isn't. I like AAA games, but I still play a great variety. That I mostly enjoy indies nowadays. The bigger concern for me is that right now, at least of this deck, it says that it's going to be same great price for $499. Considering that the PS5 Pro Digital is sitting at $399, I think there's a world in which the PS5 Pro all digital is $499 as well, and I think that's a problem. If we head into holiday 2024, there's two all digital consoles on the shelves, both are $499. One has 1 terabyte extra hardware, and then one is significantly more powerful than the other. Then I think Xbox probably loses out that value proposition, because I don't think an extra terabyte of SSD space is really a strong motivator for someone's purchase decision. So that would be my concern. I think Xbox really needs to be careful here and just really think about their pricing for this. Look, I'm really happy with my Series X. I run it on an LG OLED. I'm not wanting for more power right now. And I think there's still, from what we've seen of games like Fable and others coming out, that there's still a lot of power left under the hood. So I think they could survive a few years losing the power narrative until the next generation. I would just be really wary of that price, but that's just my perspective.
That's a good perspective. And Hargeet, the same question posed to you. And one of the things that did cross my mind outside of the pricing and things like that is that narrative. Microsoft has always have to battle these narratives, man, these negative narratives placed against them. And I feel like it'll be a repeat of what we got with the Xbox One, PS4 era, where they, touted PlayStation having, 1080p or whatever and such, and Microsoft suffering at 720 with the Xbox One and such. I feel like this will be close to that in some ways. Now, clearly, the Xbox Series X is powerful enough that that's not going to be the case. However, if you get a steady locked 60 and ray tracing and all whatever little dressings they can have on the PlayStation version of a game, but Xbox can't do it, I think that narrative will start to stick. Well, what's your thoughts on it, Hargeet?
I honestly don't know that it really matters. And this is one of the things we got from the leak, right? The Series S is the majority console. It's not the Series X. And maybe that switches, maybe it doesn't, but I think the majority of the customers aren't impressed by graphics, they're impressed by games. And if the steady stream of games is on, look at the enthusiasm gap of game announcements from the PlayStation side versus the Xbox side. We know stuff is coming, right? We've seen a lot of stuff that's coming over the next few years. What do we know that's coming on the PlayStation side, right? And if that continues, That's their problem. It's not it. The games need to be there. They just need to be there. Right now, we can say, hey, look, they have these stable of awesome studios, and they will keep putting out games. However, they've been working on a game at Naughty Dog that got canned. Right? Will that come out? I don't know.
Right.
But it got canned. And last I heard, Ghost of Tsushima, the next thing was going to be more multiplayer focused. Is that going to work? I don't know. Right? The more you go down this path, the more it might seem like that may not work. Now, Spider-Man 2 looks pretty cool, but it also looks like the games that you've already played. Right? So is that pushing the envelope? I don't know. It's still going to sell well, I hope. It's going to do something for their consoles. It's going to be good. But I don't know what the heck else they have. I haven't seen a goddamn thing outside of all the multiplayer things, right? So, whereas Microsoft just keeps putting out, here are the things that are coming. The number one selling console is Nintendo, right? Which is woefully inadequate in power, but it doesn't seem to matter, right? They put out their games and they sell like crazy. So the question becomes, what really is the driver? Is it going to be the power? And what I've seen, power does not matter. The N64 was 4 times more powerful than the PlayStation. It didn't matter. The PlayStation trounced it. It doesn't matter.
True.
That's the problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that you can keep going after power. The GameCube was more powerful than the PS2. It doesn't matter. The Xbox was humongously more powerful. It doesn't matter. The PlayStation 2 trounced everything, right? Now, it comes down to the games. It comes down to the enthusiasm. I think that's what's going to drive it. As we've been saying, Microsoft drives the news.
They do.
PlayStation, not so much.
Mm-hmm.
And if that keeps happening, and if like maybe 50 to 60% of the news on the PlayStation side is we increased our price by like 60%. People are going to start saying, why am I on this platform? So,
yeah.
Eventually those things matter more. And I know we want to keep saying that power matters. Like Microsoft said that, because they wanted to have that power crown. The reality of it doesn't really matter because the majority of the consoles are the Series S, the lower tier little 4T flop thing. That's the one that's the majority of the Xbox. And if that's going to be the case, I just don't see why we need a third SKU. I just don't get what the value is. Look, when I was talking to Jason Ronald at the June showcase, like I'm like, if you're gonna do this, you need to go all out. I don't want like it went from 12 to 16 or 18. No. You're gonna charge me $1,000 and give me 40 T flops. I want something crazy because otherwise, what's the point? I'm not gonna upgrade for freaking, it does. Instead of 1080p, it does 1100p. I don't care. That's not enough, right? If you really want to push the envelope, fine. Meet the 4090. Tell me how you're going to be that powerful. Then I don't need to play on my PC. Otherwise, don't bother. I just don't care. I'll wait for the next gen. There's just no point, right? And so the idea of a Pro baffles me. Jim Ryan doing a PS5 Pro baffles me. Right, especially now that he knows that they're not doing one. They're not going to do one, right? There's no competitor to it. Why would he waste the money? The PS5 is selling without any freaking games. It's still selling, right? It's selling out. Like it just keeps selling, and they're already going to beat Microsoft by like 2-1.
Right.
Right. So why the heck would they bother? I don't know. If they actually do it, I'd be surprised at this point because they have to reassess and say, we know they're not making one over there. Why the heck am I going to spend billions of dollars putting up a whole infrastructure to make a console that who needs it? I'm already getting pretty damn good reviews. Nobody's like, they're not getting these like, oh, this game runs like 80% slower on the PS5. No, in most cases, it's a slight res bump on the Series X or they're dead even. It's like, well, who cares? Like it's working fine. Nobody seems to be bothered by it. So why not? In some cases, freaking PS5 wins. So I don't see why they're even bothering with it. And equivalently, if they decide to do one, I just don't see Microsoft wasting the time. They're not going to gain anything. If it were me, I would spend that $1 billion buying Crystal Dynamics.
Yeah.
Buying Eidos Montreal.
Makes sense.
Buying, IO Interactive, right? All the Square Enix, studios. That's what I would go do. I don't like, to me, a next gen bump, like a mid gen refresh. I understand making a cheaper console, right? The same thing, just make it less costly. Fair enough. I'm all for that. But to make a whole new console, that takes all sorts of headaches. And every developer now has 3 targets for your system, which makes it all the more difficult to say, hey, I want all those games to come to my platform. And they're like, dude, do you know how much that costs? I don't want to do it. So, right, it's like,
Yeah.
don't bother. I just don't see the point. They're already making it hard enough with 2 SKUs. Why go for a third? To me, this just doesn't add up. I wouldn't do it, right? What they have here, perfect. Like, you just want to make it a cheaper version. Fair enough. I get it.
Sorry, Hage, you said something that really hit on a huge point that came out of the FTC trials as well that I think we need to keep in mind. Like I mentioned earlier, like, Series S is outselling the Series X, and that's definitely a more profitable machine for them in the long run, because obviously you've got all digital customers. So, and that's Microsoft's big play here, right? Like Amy Hood said in the FTC trials, their goal is to get the Xbox business as a part of Microsoft to the same profit margin as other areas of its business. Right now, it's in single digits profit margins. They want to get it to 30, 40%. And there are much safer, easier ways to do that than spending a crap ton of money on R&D to build a console that's only going to appeal to a very small percentage of your existing audience. Why do that when you can really grow Game Pass, get more subscriptions, and then also tap those hardcore fans in other ways, right? They're really doubling down on Xbox Design Lab. Accessories and software and services is where you make your profits. And that's one thing that Microsoft's been pushing hard on. They release a new console every other day, it seems. So yeah, I think it's just there, to your point, there's not much point. If profit is the play, then why waste money on developing a brand new console?
Yeah, I don't know if you guys saw the projections, because that was another leak. Is they have how much they're intending or planning to sell, right? Whatever their sales numbers are. But that was in some of these leaks, and at the end of 3 years, they're expecting to sell 29. At the end of 27, FY27, 59. Should be 6.5 years into their console cycle. So that's interesting to see, right? Because that's nowhere near where Sony's going to be. Sony is expecting to sell over 60 by the end of this fiscal.
Yeah,
so, and they're well on their way.
Yeah, they are. I think PlayStation is in a unique position, like you point out, Hargeet, where they're selling so well, even with their base hardware. Do they need to do it? But I don't think it'll hurt them, right? Like, them doing this makes sense for them because it'll give them the power narrative again, and they'll likely sell out. So, because they're fans, I've said this before, and I'll stand by it. Our Hoove brothers are dedicated and loyal to Sony to the point of their own detriment, and they were like, "I'll just do this anyway." Like, the whole raise, the ridiculous increase they just added for PS Plus, for instance. Some people will still support that, enough where Sony will profit from it, and that's the exact opposite of what we would do on Xbox. If Microsoft would have pulled that, we would have been calling for their heads. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I wondered that because of the fan bases too, if it's more viable on PlayStation versus Xbox. Because if Xbox is doing it, maybe it might not do so well. I don't know. Spartan661 donated again another $1.99 donation. Thank you, brother. He says P3 for life. Then he passes it off to Sarah Bunn. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the plan. That's what it seems to be. So, yeah, Danny, what's your thoughts on it, man? As far as this goes with the Series X all digital, are you liking that? I mean, it's got the 2 terabyte thing going, and would you think that Microsoft needs to match Sony there? I think Hargeet made the greatest anti-argument for it, but would you have a pro version of that? I don't know.
No, so because it's that thing, right? I think the fact that this version is digital only is proof enough that, like, this is just a mid-gen refresh. That's all they're doing with it. Because I fully believe that both the PS6 and the Xbox Series X2, whatever, are still going to have digital media as part of them. Like, I don't think we're getting out of it that fast. So I don't think that there's definitely people who think like, oh, this is the future that we're going for, is like this weird circle thing. This is the new console for the next generation. I don't think that's it at all. And I also think that this okay, if let's say PlayStation does make a console that's more powerful, they make like a proper PlayStation 5 Pro. I think we're looking at a situation where when we made the jump from PS4 to PS5 into this new generation, it was already a place where people weren't really super blown away by the improvements that it made, because they just looked at it visually and they're like, oh, it's like a couple more frames more a second and like all that stuff, right? Because the majority of people aren't looking at it and they'll be like, oh, well, it's got DLSS and it's got ray tracing. Like normal people don't know what that is or care. So honestly, I would personally still be surprised if PlayStation does do a PS5 Pro. I think in terms of just like what they'd be able to get, it's worth it. And also, I don't think that it makes sense just economically right now, because like I can tell you full stop, if they put out a Pro version of the Xbox, I'm not buying it because I can't afford it. Like I can't afford another like $400 console right now.
Yeah,
like I got so many bills. It's just not something that I can do. I'm not going to, as long as I can still play the game, I'm not going to spend all this extra money to play it at a potentially slightly better frame rate or like a couple more resolution numbers. Like it's not going to make that big of a difference to me personally, and I think that is going to be the opinion of the vast majority of people.
Yeah.
Will they lose something if PlayStation does a Pro and they don't? Sure, yeah, like we'll definitely hear about it online, but the people that we're going to hear from are not going to be the majority of people.
True.
They're going to be a very loud group of dickheads who are going to be like, PlayStation better, we keeps winning. Oh my god, wow, Xbox dead.
Right.
And frankly, we're going to hear that no matter what happens. So I don't know why they would bother at this point. If they did put it out, I wouldn't be mad, but I wouldn't buy it. You know what I mean? I think that's where I'm at.
No, I agree. I think Bushido would be one of the people chanting PlayStation better. I don't know what's wrong with him. Him and Vinny, they're both toxic fans of PlayStation. So yeah, my thinking too is this, and I'll ask you guys this, and we can wrap it up. And again, folks, we have the Cure for Cancer and the Cure Cancer campaign, rather, with the fix above that I have posted above, and in the description you can find the links. It might not go directly to my campaign, but as long as it's going to them, that's all I care about. If you all have anything you can donate, this will be the last time I ask before we end it. Please donate whatever you can. So my last question to you guys on this right here. So the SKU that we see, it is listed. The Brooklyn model is listed as $499. So same price as what we currently have. Do you think this is, now the plans may have changed, and they do have 2 terabytes in it, so I can see why it's that price. It's actually a deal, it's a steal actually to me.
Yep.
For that price and getting 2 terabytes. But do you think then they'll be lowering the price for the disc version of the Xbox, or they'll keep both at $499? And do you think that's a missed opportunity to lower the price for one or the other, maybe by $50 or something like that? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so if they do end up putting out a mid-gen refresh of any amount, whether it's a slim or a more powerful version, I feel like they'll kind of have to make the other version cheaper just for it to make sense. Because even a slim version is going to be inarguably better than now. Like it'll have probably a smaller die, so it'll have better heating. I mean, we've seen the storage is going to be better. So if literally you're offering a better product for the same price, it just doesn't make sense. So yeah, I think that I think you kind of have to lower the price of the original one. Mm-hmm. I don't know how much, but if your plan is to launch the thin or whatever, I guess at the same price, the circular one at the same price that the current one is at now, then yeah, I think it's basically mandatory.
Yeah, that's my thinking too. By the way, what did you all think about the marketing they put there for the Brooklyn? It's adorably digital, like the.
I think no sleep till
Brooklyn. Yeah,
it just plays in my head the whole time.
I thought that was hilarious.
As someone who's worked marketing
on
the publisher side, like, yeah, this is an internal document. This is not marketing. None of this is marketing language that anyone would use.
That's a relief.
This is not how humans speak.
Like that,
this is someone in product development trying to explain to people who don't understand product development. They're trying to be marketers internally.
Yeah. I was
Take
gonna
that too
say,
seriously.
man, it's like, yeah, I saw that. It's like adorably. I'm like, oh, come on now. We can't be having you all go out like that. So yeah, guys in the chat, thank you all for being here again. We have the Cure Cancer campaign right there, as you can see above, and it's in the description. So even if after the show is over and you come back here later on, for anybody who watches this on replay, and there's quite a few of you all actually. Thank you, by the way. Please click on that and donate if you can, and if you have it in you to do so. We do appreciate that, and I want to thank everybody in the chat for being here tonight and for the generous donations that you all have given us tonight. You didn't have to do that, and we appreciate it. Trust me. I haven't been able to actually collect anything. I have to get something cleared up with Google. The last process is the tax information, so I just have to get that cleared up, and I can actually try to divvy that up between myself and Danny. I'm giving too much information anyway, but yeah, guys in the chat, thank you for being here, and of course, thank you to Hargeet and Shane for being here, holding us down tonight. Shane, brother, could you tell the good folks where they can find you, and maybe you want to speak on the campaign and things like that?
Yeah, thank you so much, Umbra, for having me, and thanks to everyone for tuning in. And appreciate the donations that came through. I see Jedi Knight Peter and Riskit donated to the overall campaign, which was amazing. Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter or X. It's Shane Bailey is my username there. And then if you'd like to learn about Cure Cancer and the research projects that we fund, you can visit curecancer.com.au. I'm the head of gaming at Cure Cancer, so I work with gaming creators, communities, publishers, developers to obviously support our mission. You can find the links on my Twitter. GameOn_cancer is the Game On Cancer Twitter if you wanted to check that out. Yeah, and I had a blast. Thank you so much, guys. There's so much we didn't cover. There's the hybrid console in the future. There's the one-handed controller. There's Xbox handheld potential. There's so much in this to discuss. But I had the blast. Thank you so much.
I had to go through them kind of quickly because I saw the time. But it's interesting. Even with the handheld thing, I don't think the more I looked at it, the more I was like, that does look like an internal device. But then I was like, I don't think they're making an internal device. So that's why I didn't...
Keep the dream alive, Umbra. Keep it alive.
I got the raw guideline too, and you can see Microsoft's partnership with them. That Microsoft is looking to third parties. I think it's fair to say. I don't think they're looking to make their own.
I just don't see
it's
any
just
reason
the
why
deck
they would be pushing the ROG so hard if they were making one of their own.
That deck didn't just specify third-party handhelds, though. That's kind of what I'm hanging on to. Whereas all the other ones said third-party, like the third-party streaming sticks, etc. So anyway, we can dream.
Yeah, we could dream. I think it's because I'm feeling elitist now. I have a walking PC with the raw guideline, so it's like I don't need any of those devices, those cloud devices. No, thank you. But yeah, Hargeet, brother, thank you for joining us too, and your great takes as always. I know you're not as social media astute as all of us, but I did put your Discord link and such like that to people who maybe want to join, because you do have an actual server which we all set up doing that Halo thing that night. So maybe people could come there and say nice things to you at least. So Hargeet's link to that server, which might expire or something, I don't know. But it
shouldn't. I don't think so.
You don't think so? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I know you got to turn it off or whatever or turn it to a limit. You could put it forever, I think, or maybe a certain day limit. So maybe yours is set to forever, but you all can click on that and go to Hargeet there. But Hargeet, thank you for joining us, brother. What will you be up to? And yeah, what's going on with you?
Yeah, so Sea of Stars, I'll be playing that, and I'll be on Fonz's show this Sunday, 6 p.m. Eastern, I think.
Nice.
So yeah, check that out. And back to RDX next week, and that's 8 p.m. Eastern on Dealer Gaming's channel, and good old primetime gaming with Boom on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. So yeah, check all that out.
Very nice. All of us part of the Boom family of shows.
Yes.
Yeah, man. Shout out to Funds, by the way. I got to check that out. I'm sure that'll be a great show. And yeah, guys, of course, Danny, what will you be up to, and what can people expect for your next project that you're doing?
Well, I'm working on kind of a spicy project right now, and I don't know, I don't know how well it's going to go over. But I've been saying for a while that I think PlayStation is kind of a first-party problem. I was thinking about doing a video on that. I've worked on an outline for it, and hopefully I can put that out without getting too much hate mail. But also, do I care? Not really. Anyway, until then, you can find me on Twitter at Daniel J McG or at my personal YouTube channel of Daniel McG, or here or on Xbox Factor or in your nightmares. Baby, I'm coming for you.
Brady ain't got nothing on him. Yeah. So listen, guys, again, thank you in the chat for being here. You all, of course, can find me on Twitter, X, Infinite Umbra or Umbra Infinite. You'll find me either way. Tuesdays on Xbox Factor with Danny and myself, C Money. Shout out to C Money. I'm sure he's was in the chat still. And hosted by Boom. And on Thursdays, of course, come back here again, 8 o'clock Eastern for The Fix. And Fridays with the Xbox Infinite crew, myself, Risky for the Biscuit, Jedi Knight Peter, and that blue number, Holly, our newest member. And I believe we'll have Kay Asante with us tomorrow, barring his wife telling him no. And you've been on enough podcasts this week and stop him. Shout out to Mrs. Asante. So yeah, come by tomorrow night and check us out too. I'm sure it'll be a really, really great discussion. Again, donation wise, guys, you got the Cure for Cancer link there in the description. If you do have anything, come through. And Shane, when does it end again?
The Starfield campaign ends on the 29th, so still a week to go.
So we got a week to go, guys. Got to the 29th. If you're hearing this one, you come by later to hear this recording, feel free to click that and please donate if you can. Anything you can do, I'm sure, is much appreciated by the crew. And,
100%.
Yeah. So thank you guys for being here, and we're going to get out of here. I hope you all have a good night.